This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A very warm welcome to you on this crisp Mara morning. My name is Patrick, and joining me behind the lens today is James. And as I said, we are coming to you from the Masai Mara Game Reserve here in Kenya. Now, if you want to interact with us at all throughout this show, use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or the YouTube chat stream and send us any questions or comments that may arise during the course of the show. So, of course, I would start with the beautiful Mara sunrise. Now, I am in the area where last night I caught up with the Olololo Pride, and James said he heard them roaring right down the hill last night. So we are going to search this area for a little bit and see if we can catch back up with them. They were pretty flat when we saw them last night. I thought we might be lucky and they might get up and start a hunt. There were some buffalo in the area, but we had no such luck. So I would just like to check back in on them this morning. Ellie says that this light is absolutely breathtaking. Yes, I am a very blessed man, or we're a very blessed people to work out here and get that every single morning, and then always followed up by a ripper sunset at the end of the day. Unless, of course, we get hammered by a storm, which definitely happened last night. We copped it hard out of nowhere. It was a pretty clear night right up until just about the end of drive, and then all of a sudden this storm just came out of nowhere, and yeah, it absolutely smashed us. So there wasn't the full pride that I caught up with last night of the Ulololos. It was, it looked to be about 7 or 8 of them, most of them being males. Of course, there are a lot of young males in the Ulololo pride. And one thing I forgot to mention is that a few of them did look quite injured. They had a lot of marks. It looked like fighting between males. So I'm not sure whether it was between the males of the Olololas themselves or whether another male has come in and there's been a bit of a scuffle. But either way, some of those males were definitely licking some pretty nasty looking wounds. But as I said yesterday, they were in pretty long grass, so it was hard to get a good look at them. So hopefully I can track them down again this morning and we can really start to investigate the scene. Ben wants to know how far am I from the sausages. Well, I'm quite far at the moment. I'm right up near our camp. Now, just excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to talk to this guy here. We had dinner with his last night. Hello, Adam. How are you? You're on camera. Say hello to everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
So Ololola's up there? Or?
No. I'm listening for live. Lots of live falling down that way.
Yeah, we heard them. Okay, cool. No worries.
But it was dark when I went by.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah. Thought I'd come back and have a bit of a look. Thanks, dude. So that was Adam, who works at one of the lodges right next to us, and we had him round for dinner last night. He's a great bloke, and I think will be a great help out here as well. So I'm just kind of backtracking a little bit. When we came down the hill, it was quite dark, and this is the last area that we left the Olololo Pride. So I'm just double backing a little bit just to make sure, because the grass was quite long, and earlier when I was looking I only had my spotlight, which definitely helps, but it's a lot easier now that that sun has poked through and we have that beautiful light. Sorry, just making my way past another vehicle. Jambo, morning.
Good morning.
Nah, we've only just come out. But yeah, nothing yet. We had the Olololos there last night, but just looking for them again now. Cool. Sorry everyone, a bit of a social morning down here in the Mara. It's nice. A lot of the other guides out here are very helpful, very friendly people, so it's nice to have a few friends out here. Of course, all out here with the common goal to connect with nature and leave as little impact as we can in the process. Alright, so this is where we left them last night, near some buffalo. But there is no sign of them now. Good morning to everyone back. I'm hearing a lot of good mornings are coming in over the chats, and you're all loving the beautiful scenery. Isn't that the best thing about the Mara, is no matter what happens, you always have beautiful scenery to fall back on. Whether there's no lions, whether there is lions, it's always made better by this landscape. Well, I am going to continue on my search, but in the meantime, let's go to the expert leopard searcher. I'm sure you've all seen the clip by now. Stephanie. Good morning, Stephanie.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to Djuma in South Africa. I'm just spotted something in the road. It's nothing. Anyway, good morning. My name is Steve. I'm joined by Jandre on camera. And, well, sorry for being a little bit late. I just had to void the contents of the Nile out of my earpiece, and now I can hear Faith, so everything is good. It is a very cool, overcast and rainy 17 degrees Celsius, 62 degrees Fahrenheit here in Djuma. And, well, of course, we would love to hear from you. Don't forget, this is live and it's active. Send your questions, hashtag SafariLive, or throw them in the YouTube chat stream. Well, what we're going to try and do is avoid getting too wet this morning. After yesterday's bushwalk experience, Jandre and myself got rather soaked. But this morning, we're going to head towards the west and see if there's any sign of Hokomori. Will that be all right with all of you? We'll just go have a little scratch around, see what he's doing, if we can find him, that is. And barring that, we're going to... So Patricia wants to play that game again. He's calling me Stephanie. That's all right. Patricia, it is for the morning. Well, thank you, Pat, for the accolades. I will try and find a leopard. I'm nowhere near as good as Tristan is at finding them. I think there's a video now doing the rounds on Facebook of my little blooper the other day, which everyone's finding fantastically funny. And it is quite funny. It is very, very funny, the video. And, well, if everybody watches that video closely, I stopped the car and I looked this way, and then he walked past. So I did not nearly run him over. All in good fun, everybody. I don't mind the banter. It's all good. But I think someone on Facebook then showed a video underneath, and he said, well, that was pretty funny, but nowhere near as funny as when Tristan did that. Jenny, you have faith in me. Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I think some people don't have faith in them at me in the moment, but that's all right. That's all right. We'll just prove those people wrong. So just having a look at what these tracks were. We've had some rain, so it is quite tricky in the early morning to pick up on any fresh tracks unless the animal is moving right now. When an animal walks and rain falls on those tracks, invariably washes them away. So the newspaper, as you were in the early morning, has got a fresh palette of ink. So we have to be very, very aware with our search this morning, because, you know, there could be a leopard right over here. Never going to live that one down. It's fine. I'm sending that video to all my friends and family because, you know, we've got to laugh at these things. If we can't laugh at ourselves, who can we laugh at? Exactly. Do you agree, Jandre? Okay, so some fresh activity over here of elephants busy feeding on some branches. There's a very fresh pile of poo in the road. Let me just grab this. So it's very interesting that they are actually feeding on the silver cluster leaf at the moment. That is not a silver cluster leaf. No, it is. It's a small one. But see how they leave the leaves alone and they feed just on the bark over here. That motion called corkscrewing, where they put the tree in the mouth and they turn it just to access the bark. You can see there's no other need for this plant, and it is actually not. This is a resin. It's a resin, Ozaroa. Very good. There are not many of these in the property that I know of, and well, this one is dead. A little bit of brush packing on the road there. Let me jump back on the vehicle before that elusive leopard that's hiding in the bushes jumps out to catch us. Hey, Jandre? That'll be good. Okay, so as I said, we're just going to head a little bit to the western side, see what activity there is. The light is only starting to come through now because it's been rather dark with this overcast conditions. But Taylor also has had some radio issues this morning because of the rain yesterday, but it seems as if everything is sorted. She is out and about, and she would like to say good morning.
Hello everybody, we haven't had actually any radio issues this morning at all. The radio has been working perfectly fine. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Craig. The issue was a variety of different things, including that it is raining and we could not do bushwalk. And that there was an issue yesterday with Rusty's radio, but Conrad the genius has fixed it. So we shall be featuring all day long. Now, we are driving down Weaver's Nest currently in search of some lions, and we're just going to sort of have a scratch around. It did rain throughout the night, so, I mean, the ground is not saturated, but I think that a lot of tracks are going to be washed away. Not completely washed away, I think there'll just be partial footprints. So, hopefully, with the weight of the lions walking on these sandy roads, hopefully their footprints would be deep enough that they didn't completely disappear. Megan, oh, it's a tough one. You know, with regards to rainy season, sometimes it starts really late and then it pushes through a little bit longer. I haven't been here really to see rainy season. I don't think it rained it rained actually the day I left it rained, but it didn't pour with rain. It was kind of just a mizzle, a bit harder than what we're experiencing now. And typically it'll end in April. But, you know, the chances of it pushing through a little bit, it could happen. And we haven't had a lot of rain here, but everything's very green. So we'll see. So it should go for about another month, and then it should sort of ease off, and then we'll have blue skies and starry nights every single day. So my favorite time of the year is winter. Obviously, we all moan about how freezing it is in the morning, and you see us wrapped around, you know, shookers, big jackets, beanies, scarves and gloves, but it is kind of worth it. It's fresh, but it's an awesome experience to have winter in the Sabi sand. Like I said, during the day you can take off all the long layers and put shorts and a t-shirt back on. I mean, where else can you do that? Well, I'm sure there's lots of other places you can do that, but you can't do that in very many places where you've got wild animals like we do, wonderful wild African animals. So I don't know how many lions were seen at Twin Dams yesterday. I also don't think that they found them in the afternoon. I wonder if they didn't move during the day. I'm just going to give it a bash anyways. Chameleons can be out right now. I mean, chameleons are typically active during the day, so they'll pretty much be starting to wake up now, but it's a bit chilly, so they might stay a bit frozen for a little while longer. But once the day sort of warms up, then Craig, what does that sound? Can you hear it? Is it the roof? Sorry, can you not hear that noise? Is there something touching the wheel? Is it the cover? There's a weird... I think it was the cover, Craig. I'm sorry, I just think the rain cover was dangling down and touching the tire. There's just an uncomfortable sound there that I don't like, and I'm not really sure why it's making that noise. Okay, we're going to just try and figure out what is making the noise on this car. Off you go to the Mara to Pat. He's probably having a lot more luck than we're having here in South Africa.
Well, still no sign of the lows, but not to be discouraged. I am still looking. I actually, funnily enough, had a... I don't remember exactly how I got to this point, but I was somehow on foot down here with about 12 lion cubs, all of various sizes and ages, but they all seem to have a very keen interest in coming up to me and giving me a bit of a snuggle, and I was kind of part of their crew for a little bit. So it was a very pleasant dream, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come. Well, not me being on foot around lions out here in the Mara, but more so finding lion cubs. Now, Manu does believe that there are some Olololo cubs stashed somewhere around here. But finding a cub's den is quite hard when it comes to lions. Rightfully so, because obviously they don't want the cubs to be found whilst they're still so helpless. Most of the time blind and can't even walk. Just doing some drifties there, showing you my driving skills. Well, you've already seen all my driving skills in all of those searches for the sausages. Germano, do the Olololos and the sausages ever clash? Not that I have heard of or seen, but that's not to say it hasn't happened. That their territories are quite a distance apart. I believe that they are, though, yeah, because the marsh pride's kind of more to the side. So yeah, they are close together, but there is such an abundance of food here in the Mara that I haven't really seen or heard of that many territory clashes in the last kind of few months or so. And come migration time, the territories almost dissolve in a way, because one of the kind of limiting factors of a territory is the abundance of food, and come migration time there is no shortage of that whatsoever. So territories start to become a little bit less defined as the migration starts to come. But no, I haven't heard or seen of any interactions between the sausages and the Olololos. So I'm coming a little bit deeper now, actually, towards sausage territory. Still quite a bit away now, but that is the direction I was heading. But I don't know, my gut's telling me that they're kind of back more west, southwesterly sort of direction now. I have seen them come up this far into this area, but most of the time we see them, they're more sort of back that way. So I'll come up here, I'll do a little bit of a loop around this next road, and then if there's no sign of them, I think I'm going to double back, go back further that way, hopefully pick up on them. They are definitely the pride I've spent the most time with. I've only seen them twice since being out here this time, but I saw them almost every second or third day back in November, sorry. Dan wants to know, does the Mara have a dry season? And if so, what do the aquatic animals do? Well, it's not really a dry season. So they have the short rains around November and the long rains that are about this time of year. And so there's a lot of moisture around, it's very damp. But even after that, it's still a lot of moisture around, even when it's not raining as much. So it's always pretty good for the water-based animals out here. Now I'm just stopping because this sunrise is something else. Look at that. Topped off, of course, by that beautiful hot air balloon. How epic. How very, very epic. Now, there isn't that much sound going on this morning, but I will stay quiet for a little bit just so we can enjoy this moment. Absolutely unreal. No better way to start the day, is there? Coming up with the sun. That's why I sleep early, early. I rise early, early in the morning. I need to stop breaking out into song whilst I'm live. I don't know why, I have a very strong association with song lyrics. So whenever I see something that reminds me of a song, I don't know. Song lyrics really, I don't know. Jim Sen said it looks like an oil painting. It does. It almost looks unreal, like literally not real, doesn't it? Like somebody has created it. But, well, some entity created it, Mother Nature. She is the ultimate of artists, the ultimate of creators. There is infinite possibilities as to the things that she can show us and the experiences that she can give us. Isaac, we have a new viewer in Isaac. Well, welcome aboard our Game Drive vehicle. I sincerely hope that you like what you see and continue to follow and connect with nature with us. Anyway, to your question, you wanted to know, can anyone enter here into the park? Well, there is gates around all of the lodges and every entry to the park. So it is about $80 per day per vehicle to get a permit to enter, and other than that you aren't allowed in here. So that is how this national park works if you do want to come across and visit. So it's really well maintained as well. There's rules to sightings, there's rules to the roads, there's rules for the animals. So it's really ensuring that if you do enter into this park, that you're going to treat it with the most respect possible, which is good. And of course, all of the money made from people entering does help go back into the park. Well, my lion hunt this morning is still not going well, but I won't give up just yet. It appears, though, Miss McCurdy has been successful in her hunt. Let's go down to Juma.
Look at what we've got, but unfortunately it is a 2-second lion. There is a lion, I couldn't even tell you if it was a lioness or maybe the Mungane male. It's so far away and it's exceptionally dark and had its back towards us. But there we go, that is our lion sighting for this morning. I'm going to tell Mr. Dylan Leo Smith, shall we tell him that there are lions so that he can come and find them and herd them back across the boundary for us. Let us do that, because the radio doesn't work so well here, so we shall send voice notes. Hello, Dylan Leo Smith. There was one lion at Baboon Pan walking sort of in a southerly direction, contact calling. So I don't know if you want to follow up. There's no visual anymore. Okay, there we go, done. We've done our good deed for the day. Make sure that that goes through. Or let that send. Okay, so I actually said to Craig I was quite keen to go and see what was happening at Chitwa open area. And that is not, if that lion walks south, then potentially might meet up with the others. There was also an impala that was not very impressed with that lion's presence, as you may have heard that sound. No, that's a wildebeest sound. I don't know why I did that. That was a wildebeest alarm call. I don't quite know how to do the nasally sound that an impala makes. Craig, can you do an impala alarm call? You shrugged your shoulders like you don't know. Have you never tried? Well, here's your chance to try. No, Craig's not impressed this morning. He's not talking to me. It's fine. You know, everyone knows what that means. It means that I get to give Craig's answers for him. Kaylee, no, it didn't rain more. It just poured in the morning. and then it kind of stopped. It actually was really hot. I went for a run, we did a workout. Conrad and I got very, very, very sweaty. Who else went and did a workout? It was just standing there going, it's so humid and dying. So no, it was actually quite nice. And then it got a little bit cloudy again. Obviously, if you watch Safari Lives yesterday afternoon, you would have seen that Craig and I showed the rainbow and the big sort of clouds coming from the east, but nothing sort of happened. The clouds did come over, but I think it only rained very early in the morning. I actually didn't even hear the rain, but I went outside and I was like, oh, okay, cool, soggy socks for bushwalk it is. And then I checked the weather and I went, oh no, it's going to continue raining. It said for most of the morning, just a light drizzle. So who knows? Who knows? Okay, we're heading up towards Chitwa now. I just want to do a quick check of that open area just to have a little look-see. And then we'll come back. I think we'll probably look for Tlalamba and see if we can find her. Great stuff. Right. Pity the lions didn't hang around, or the lion didn't hang around, but maybe they'll come back. Or if you go to Steve, who I know is searching for Hukamori this morning.
Welcome back, everybody. We've just managed to find a breeding herd of elephants. Apologise for the pole that we have in front. We've come in on the power lines. Here is a nice big female on the right-hand side. A little bit of a fright there. We decided to turn around. Sorry about the pole of the vehicle as well. It is loomingly wet this morning, and she is enjoying some very nice grass. Look at that. She's just pulling it up. She can't get enough in her mouth at one time. Elephants feed on lots of grass this time of year. It is very nutrient rich. All the minerals that they need. Got some more coming up ahead of us. We've come in on what we call Power Lines Road. That's why you might see a pole there. I do apologise about it. Let me just move forward, John. Do we get that pole out the way? Now, we were just on Triple M checking the boundary, and we had a few elephants as well crossing there. The visual wasn't great, though, as they crossed into Simbambili. Look at this little guy here. He's given us a little bit of a head shake. Be scared, he says. I am huge. But in front here, we've got a little youngster, John, who's busy rubbing up on Mum's bottom. Sorry about that. He's stopped rubbing now. Learning all about how to be an elephant. So the reason we turned around and came back in on this road was because I heard a Franklin alarm calling from inside here somewhere. Somewhere around here, Hukamori was seen yesterday. And it's very, very important to follow up on alarm calls. Moto, you say beautiful elephant indeed. Absolutely gorgeous. I love spending time with them. I love it when they have youngsters. Bulls can be fun to spend time with, but they don't often do too much. They just sort of behave very relaxed, whereas breeding herds often have got youngsters who cause a little bit of trouble and stick their tails up and all behave very strangely. Hello, Jody. You want to know why we call it a breeding herd? It is kind of the collective name for a group of females with the family unit. So essentially, a buffalo breeding herd, we call it a buffalo breeding herd when there are lots and lots of buffalo there. And there are females that are reproductive with males coming in and out and with the offspring of those females. Now, elephant breeding herd or a herd of elephants is the same thing. They are females that are reproductive and they are young males within the herd, but not necessarily a large male. So when there is a large male, we normally call them bull elephants, and you can sometimes get a group of bull elephants, and then you wouldn't really call it a herd. You just call it a group of boys or an askari, which is basically a big male with a whole lot of young males who follow him around learning the ways of being a big male elephant. So it is just the common name that we all call buffalo breeding herds, elephant breeding herds, because each of them has a different connotation when it comes to viewing them. Essentially, a buffalo bull on its own is normally sort of a grumpy fellow just sitting down in the mud wallow, whereas a breeding herd on a vehicle can be a little bit more exciting to see, but on foot, a buffalo bull on its own is one of those daunting things that you try and avoid at all costs, whereas a breeding herd of buffalo is actually quite fun on foot. And the same with elephants, except it's the opposite way around. Bull elephants on foot, for the most part, are quite relaxed. But when it comes to breeding herds of elephant, you need to be careful because of the babies. And if you're not aware of elephants with babies, well, you can land yourself in some trouble if you don't know all of the little idiosyncrasies that they portray. Maurice, you want to know why some elephants have tusks and others don't? It is purely because of a genetic thing. Once upon a time, ivory trade or ivory hunters are the reason why we've lost a lot of big tuskers in the populations. But essentially, tusks are a genetic formation within elephants. The size of them as well comes from genetics. And some females, generally, you don't find many males without tusks in the Kruger Park. I can't actually say I've ever seen a male without tusks in the Kruger. But a lot of it comes from selective hunting or poaching, which happened a very, very long time ago. In Addo Elephant National Park, which occurs down in the Eastern Cape, there was an ivory hunter down there who was tasked with removing the problem elephants from the agricultural areas that were down there, lots of fruit farms and the like. But he was only paid for the ivory he brought back. So he selectively only killed elephants that had tusks. So funny enough, but in 30, 40 years, or I think it was a process of about 20 years, but up until about the 90s, there were no tusk elephants in Addo Elephant National Park. They were all completely free of tusks. So that is just a selective sort of thing, but that was a human selection. But they have brought some more elephants in there from the Kruger National Park, and that gene has returned. It's just like any sort of genetic trait in humans. You can have a whole lot of blonde children and suddenly you get a redhead, or dark-haired children, suddenly you get a redhead. It's just one of those genetic traits in the population that can always pop up, of course. I hope that answers your question. Should we move up, Chandre? Let me turn for this youngster here. Hello, Nancy. You want to know if elephants are eating the roots or the top of the grass? Let me just try and reposition for you here. This youngster here is feeding on forbs at the moment. Feeding on the forbs underneath the tree very deliberately, grabbing each of them with its trunk and pulling it up. And so right now it's probably eating the entire forb. Like I was discussing yesterday on Medicinal Monday, how all of the forbs around you have got all sorts of medicinal value in the leaves and the stems, the flowers and the roots. This time of year, elephants are feeding. Sorry about the poll. I'm not going to start because it's really close to us here, this youngster, but quite relaxed. Oh, hello. You are so magnificently big, aren't you? But definitely as the grass starts to lose some of its nutrients and its protein, then the elephants will actually physically start selecting for the grass roots, where they'll pick the grass and rip it or kick it so that it actually comes up with the roots intact, and then they have to hit it against their body so as to remove the soil. Because it's like having a sandwich on the beach. If someone's got a bit of sand in your sandwich, it's not very nice, is it? It's a bit crunchy. But also, as it gets even drier and the grass loses even more of its nutrients, then the animals... You want to go back there, Jean-Bray? Let's go back there. Then the elephants will stop eating grass altogether and then move over to the vegetation in the form of the trees. If there's leaves, they'll eat the leaves, or as we saw on my first segment this morning, they'll feed on the bark of the tree. If not the bark, they'll push the trees over to feed on the roots. So elephants, as big as they are probably the most selective feeder we have out here. They feed on fruits, shoots, leaves, bark, roots, absolutely anything. That little one wants to chase us, Jean-Dre. Let's go see this mama over here. She's got a little one. So when we were talking about breeding herds versus bulls, this is the situation right here. You find yourself with adult females with youngsters. So they can be slightly more temperamental because obviously they're protecting their youngster. Kathy, you want to know if elephants ruminate? Most certainly not. Elephants are hindgut. There we go. That one's showing us all of the signs of an elephant that is warning me. You see how the tail is up, very stiff, the head is up a little bit, and they're going to disappear back into the thickets there. So that information there from an adult will tell you to leave them alone. Don't try and follow up anymore, even though we are being followed once again by this youngster. I'm just going to turn. Oh, there's one coming out in front. Now that is a telltale sign of, it's a young elephant, this one, but you see how it kind of walked sideways, lifted its head up, kind of looked at us. But you never really need to worry about a young elephant. They will behave like adults, but their behavior is really not intending to be too sort of aggressive. But when you see an adult female behaving in certain ways, you've got to be very, very cognizant of what she's saying. But this youngster showed us a little bit of funniness. Everybody wants to know what would happen if they charged my vehicle. Now, the points I'm making in discussion here are very important to realize, is that before we came into the sighting, from a distance, I already felt out the mood of this herd. And because I felt out the mood of the herd already, they're not going to suddenly decide to change their behavior. As this little youngster comes behind me again, I'm just going to make some space because there's a big female coming behind. I'm just going to see what she's going to do. Just going to put our bottom in here. So elephants from a distance, everybody, if they are in the mood to be funny or to show you some sign of sort of aggression, they'll do so from a distance. The babies will disappear. You won't see the babies. The herd will all stop feeding. You won't have any of them feeding anywhere. They'll all stop doing what they're doing, and then their behavior will be sort of focused on you, and then the female might react in a way that indicates to me, okay, this herd is not relaxed, I'm going to move out. But when you see them feeding, if you sit around and listen, around us there's 15, 20 elephants that are still busy eating. No one is in any bad mood at the moment. If the youngsters show funniness towards us, that's just them being funny elephants. They know that mum is quite scary, and they think they are as well. And they do what mum does, but it's not very scary. But you can see she is there. She's got her youngster. If she wasn't happy, they wouldn't just be hanging around. Okay, but she's going to go the other way. So if an elephant does ever charge, which it's not ideal, you never want to provoke that sort of reaction, as exhilarating as it might feel. You don't want to stress the animals out in any way. And if we look over here, this would not be happening if this herd was not relaxed. You wouldn't see anything. No one would be eating, even though he's showing us a little bit of sort of, I'm such a big elephant. Look at him. He's going to come closer. Look at me. I'm huge. Look how big I am. Tail is very relaxed. He's standing side on to us to show us how big he is. Sorry about the poll, everybody. But every now and again, when you do get charged by a breeding herd it normally comes from about 80 meters, 100 meters, you suddenly see a female drop her head and come running from a distance. Then, because you've been paying attention to the behavior, you've got more than enough time to reverse and get out of the situation without provoking any sort of negative behavior. Well, it seems like it is one of those kind of mornings, and Taylor's also found some elephants. Let's go see their behavior.
Hello, big girl. So we do have elephants too. Ah, you're just coming to dust bath. Now, please remember we do have the rain roofs on us this morning. Hi, big girl. What's wrong? I'm just watching this Ailey cow because she keeps walking towards us with intent, but then obviously she's quite relaxed. And she's very happy to just have a bit of a mud bath. It's okay. Are you a bit freaked out because we've got the rain roofs on? Now, unfortunately, we do have the rain covers down, and the rain has actually just started coming down. Cover this. It's okay, guys. I now also cannot see what the elephants are doing, which is not really ideal in this situation. So, seeing as though Steve was talking about what you should and shouldn't do with elephants and to prevent them from charging and all those kinds of things, so I'm just packing things away that could get wet here. One of the things is that you ideally should always keep an eye on an elephant and know where they are around you. So like now, I can sort of hear that they're still moving down. So we're really going to turn around so that we can put the rain behind us too. They're pretty relaxed. I think they were just keen to have a bit of a sort of a sandy bath. Oh, here comes the rain. It's going to soak us. Come on, Rusty. Don't give us trouble now. Where'd they go? Gone. We'll follow them. Anna Marie, yes, elephants do practice geophagy, I think is what you're asking. So if you don't know what geophagy is, the most common sort of practice of animals doing weird things is when we see them sort of performing something called osteophagy, which is where they'll eat bones, they'll chew on bones to try and get calcium and phosphorus. Elephants will do the same thing, and geophagy is when they eat dirt. You see lots of animals doing that. Hello, big girl. No, don't be mean. We're just coming to look at you, please. It's raining, and we don't have anything else to look at. I'm sorry. I know I'm being a pain this morning, little elephant. Well, she's not so little. So yes, I've seen elephants picking up mouthfuls of soil and putting in their mouth. You typically see a lot of youngsters doing that. I often watch rhinos also sort of gnawing on a termite mound. So there are lots of different animals out here. And I suppose it just depends what they're lacking in their diet. They'll eat certain soils that are mineral rich in whatever mineral, they're looking for. But I think at this time of the year, they're all right. The plants are perfect. They've got, they're as green as they're going to get. The fruit is all, producing on the tree, so they're healthy. They've got lots and lots of water. I can hear my voice. Is the volume on here? Yes, that is why I can hear my voice on the monitor. So it's more in times of the dry season that you'll see animals sort of performing things like osteophagy or geophagy, and that's just because there isn't enough nutrients in the grasses or in the leaves or in roots or in bark, so they've got to find other ways to try and supplement their diet. It's obviously not ideal for an elephant to eat mouthfuls of dirt. That's not great. I mean, that's not how their digestive system is sort of designed. I love that piece of grass that she's still got on top of her head. Oh, so it's not a piece of grass, it's a little shrub that she's pulled out. It looks like a little senna plant or something. So just a small breeding herd, not a big group like what Steve has. This is just 3 of them, mom and 2 offsprings. Maybe they're meeting up with the rest of the herd a little bit later, but, perhaps this is it. The sizes of elephant herds can vary, from a couple of hundred together if you go up into Zambia, or, you could just have 3 like this. Wonderful. Well, the rain is coming down, so we'll probably stay put just for the minute. Off you go to Pat, where he is a lot drier and not having to battle with the rain covers.
Well, speaking of the various forms of aphasia, we have one here that performs occasionally osteophagia, which I'm sure Taylor just informed you all about. This is, of course, the Maasai giraffe. Giraffa tippleskirchi is its scientific name, being one of the 4 species of giraffe across 9 different subspecies. This one is actually the tallest and also the most Maasai of all the giraffe species. So we just thought we'd stop to show this majestic creature in this majestic light, in this majestic place. Anyway, pressing on. So I did do what I said I was going to do and search the areas I said I was going to search. Sorry, is there a car behind me? I thought I had an engine. Still nothing in terms of lions and the olololos, but that is okay. I'm going to abandon the search now and switch more over into bumble mode. I'm going to take one of my favourite routes that turns out usually to be super fruitful. So usually if there's not anything major like a big cat sighting, there is always an interesting bird, something cool in the water. So there's always something happening on this route where it goes down past the river, up through the marshes and around the other parts of the river. So it's a really nice little linked up area. You come across a diversity of habitats and therefore a diversity of organisms. So I honestly have no idea where the Olololos could have moved to last night. There was a few people around looking, but no one has come across anything as of yet. And that is just lions for you. Large territories, large home ranges. Rob, have the Olololo males found the Kichwa males, I believe the question was, or formed up with the Kichwa males? I am not sure. I haven't seen the Kichwa males yet since I have been in the Mara. Oh, are the Olololo some of the Kichwa males? Well, I am not actually sure. I know all of the younger males are all young of the females of the Olololo pride, but I'm not sure about those Kichwa males. They have been a bit of a mystery to me. I actually learned the other day that if you are speaking to another guide and you say Kichwa, that is the word for lions out here. I believe it actually means lion's head, doesn't it, James?
Yes.
Yeah, lion's head. But sometimes if a guide has some guests on the back and you want to tell them the location of the lions without saying that there's actually lions there, so the guests don't get their hopes up too much. So you say Kichwa. Anyway, I'm hoping to find some cool animals along this drive. But in the meantime, let's go back down to Juma. I believe Steve is with some Ellies.
Welcome back, everyone. We found another huge herd of elephants. I'm just watching this lady here closely. Well, the boys all behind her were playing, and she was amongst them playing. And now she's giving us that very characteristic sort of like, where did you come from? And she's watching us quite closely, trying to smell us. Behind her, there's a whole lot of boys that are playing, absolutely oblivious to any of her signs. So she's not showing any negative behavior. She's just trying to figure, ooh, because you've got a roof on, we're quite big. So she's trying to just look and see, who exactly is this thing here? And we've just driven past a whole lot of other elephants, and there's a giant male behind me who's in full must, and I can smell him. You could cut the air, it's so thick. And so it's just important to pay attention when you see a lady like this. See how now she's relaxed. Her tail went flicking again. She's now figured out, okay, everything's fine. Hello, Kaylee. These elephants are all various amounts of ages. This female, you can see how her head is quite indented. You see the indents in her head? I would say she's probably in her 40s, maybe even 50s. She's an old girl. Lots of youngsters around, hard to give you the ages of them. There's probably a 7-year-old there on the right, and then maybe an 8 or 9-year-old next to it as it comes through. But they are probably successive years of this female's offspring. See how they're doing exactly what she's doing, copying her every move. Coming to investigate this weird object. See, that's investigation. When an elephant lifts its head like that, it's looking down its nose at you. And also at the same time trying to smell and then put them together. Is that a threat? Do I have to worry about that? And the reality of it is because there's lots of big males around here that are in must. And the must bulls often cause all sorts of trouble in the herds. And sometimes you can find yourself in a herd of elephants and they go all crazy. But it's got nothing to do with us. It's generally got to do with the interests of a big male trying to mate with a female. And sometimes she says no. And I'm just going to turn the corner so we can get a little bit more of a better view here. Hello, Smith. You want to know if elephants are pickier than others? I think elephants are very picky for the most part, but they definitely try and feed on the best vegetation around. But you watch them feeding, you watch them eating, and they're very specific in how they go about it. And obviously the time of year changes what they do. Chandra, when you finish there, sorry, we've got the boys up ahead all fighting with each other. And we've just got some fighting youngsters there. I think we might go and have a look at the fighting youngsters because I think that can be quite fun. And then I'll finish your discussion there. There's at least 60 elephants around us here, everybody. This is awesome. Elephants love the rain. They love the rain. And so it's very nice to get in amongst a herd of elephants in the rain, especially when you get some naughty little boys who are trying to show each other who's bigger than who. Just going to try and get around here and see. Now, when you get herds of elephant coming in large groups like this, the reality of it is family groups that might not have seen each other for some time and coming back together. There we go. She's just said, hey, don't come any closer. And there's a beautiful female coming right at the back there. This is a youngster. You can tell by the size. Elephants, all about size, really. Females don't get as big as males, but when you look at the head and you see the indentations on the head, it quite often helps you to see the age of the female. But so elephants are very picky. They'll all feed on the best available food. And you'll see them pushing over fences, escaping parks to get to marulas. So they'll actually... Oh, there's a big boy just come out of nowhere. We are completely ensconced by elephants here, everybody. Sorry about the pole. There's a big boy. Look at the size of him compared to the elephants in front of us. So here you can see there's a female who's walking straight towards us. We're just going to sit very still and very quietly here. She knows we're here. And she's going to come as close to us as she wants to. Right, some communication. So the family units come together and they will introduce their youngsters that maybe haven't seen each other, or maybe born during the year or during the wet season. Cousins with cousins and aunties meeting nephews and nieces. Hello, Liz. Oh, there's a youngster coming in the back there. Andre, there it is. Hello. There's a brand new little one. And there's a big male coming at the back, and that's causing them a little bit of stress. There's a big male there. So, Liz, you want to know how quickly tusks grow, and a lot of it's got to do with nutrients. Potassium and phosphorus in the vegetation help in tusk growth. So there are places in Africa where there's very low potassium and phosphorus in the vegetation, and so you get almost stunted growth in the tusks. So it's not always just genetic. There's also a vegetation element to it. You can also see the same thing with horns. I mean, you look at the Masai Mara, and you'll see how much bigger the antelope horns are up there. Same species with Impala, but their horns are far bigger, and it's probably attributed to a much larger or better diet in the vegetation. Look at those. Those are magnificent tusks. Magnificent tusks. Okay, well, there's a boy over here who's about to cause all sorts of trouble with these females. I'm just going to move back a little bit so we can maybe get some of the action. Sorry about that, Jean-Andre. When you're in a herd of elephant like this, you sometimes don't know where to look. Is that all right? Look at this little youngster coming through. Now, everybody, it's a very important thing to notice here is if this herd was not happy, you wouldn't see that baby. It would disappear in between adults. We're completely gone. You can see, you can hear, everyone's feeding, everyone's moving around, babies are in the open. So if you ever have those scenes, or you've probably seen those scenes with us before, when you get a young elephant decide to come out and charge the vehicle, it's always very funny because the young elephant would not do that if mum was in any upset way. Yeah, look at the size difference. If Jean-Andre goes left, look at the size of this male. Look at him. Now he's busy testing the females. I can't tell if he's in must because he's wet. Normally, must, you can tell the back legs are very wet, but male elephants at this time of year, this is the prime time for mating, prime time for females to come into estrus. So all the big bulls are in must, walking around. Sorry, he is out. You can actually tell the back of the legs are a little bit wetter than the rest of the body. But so he comes into the herd. They might all come into the herd, lots of males. I've seen at least 3 big males now. And all they want to do is investigate the females and find the ones that are ready for mating. And sometimes that can cause all sorts of havoc. If you see him moving in the back there, he's now chasing the females because he wants to check them out. And, well, sometimes they just don't want him to. But it's always fun when he encounters another big male, because then they will have fun with each other. But anyway, we're going to stay here. I don't think we're going to go anywhere. But while we do that, let's go back over to Taylor and see what she's up to.
We've got one of the most annoying birds in Africa. We've got the hardy-dar ibis, who's just walking down the length of the airstrip, which I think is actually quite clever, because the airstrip is nice and soft with all the sand, which makes it very easy for this hardy-dar to probe its bill into the soil, looking for all sorts of tasty treats. And if it carries on like this, it might get lucky and not even have to do any hard work. And potentially earthworms and things like that will just, come straight out of the ground, because the earth might get too saturated. Nice walking across the airstrip. We need to start looking out now also for hardy-dar nests. Who remembers back in 2017 where we had such an awesome sighting for a couple of weeks of 2 hardy-dar chicks growing up, but and then we suspected either Shongile or Hosana got into the nest, because one day it just wasn't there anymore and the nest was completely sort of ragged. There you go, got something else. Other thing it could be eating is beetle larvae. Could be munching down on them too. But I'm wondering what would bury itself on the airstrip. I don't know. Maybe it's easy for dung beetles to dig through here, because in the middle of the airstrip the soil will be particularly compact, but on the side the soil is actually quite loose. Shirley, what do I get if I make the hardy-dar sound? What I do see though is a blacksmith lapwing running over on just the right. Are you going to chase the hardy-dar away? Has it come onto your turf? Are we going to have bird wars this morning? We know how territorial the blacksmith lapwings can be, and if they have a nest nearby, well, it doesn't matter what animal you are, big or small, they'll come for you, and they'll chase you, and they'll bop you on the head. Ha ha! See, there's also another hardy-dar calling in the distance, but that was my terrible attempt. Here it is too, look. That blacksmith lapwing is not having anything to do with that ibis. It's like it's just sort of warning it and saying, hey, get out of here. Get off my grass. This is my home. I'd love to see it actually chase the hardy-dar away, because if you compare the sizes, that blacksmith lapwing is probably just a bit taller than a ruler. A hardy-dar ibis is a fair amount bigger than one ruler, and also it's got a bit of weight behind it. But you can see it is raining, not hard. It's getting harder now, but it is a serious drizzle now. Oh, what are you going to get? Pull an earthworm out. Pull an earthworm out. Yes, it got something. So if you don't know how a bird with a long bill like that sort of works, and what happens is basically there's a sensory nerve running through the bill, and it's almost as if the birds are feeding blind, which they are, so they can't see their food. So as they probe into the ground, they'll basically feel if there's any insects, anything moving below the soil for the first probe, so it gets an idea, and then it will pull its beak out and it will probe down a second time. And normally it takes, I would say, between 2 and 5 probes before it's successful within that area. So the first one is just to figure out if there's anything there, and if there is, which direction does the bill need to go into the soil next to successfully, sort of bring it down. So it'll just do that the whole day, and hopefully it does get a big juicy, or a couple of good earthworms, or some beetle larvae, and then it can go and retire in the tree, and in a marula tree, and sort of dry out for the day. But there's also some other birds running down that end. What are they? Senegal lapwings, or are they crowned? It's hard to see. Goodness, it's so dark. Are you crowned or are you Senegal? I can't see from here. And no, they could be crowned lapwings. And then, of course, there was that one impala who's just standing all on its own. It's also the only impala that's standing out in the rain. For what reason, I have absolutely no idea. Because all the other animals, all the waterbuck, and all the rest of the impala have all tucked themselves underneath a shrub. So animals don't really like the rain either. I mean, they'll tolerate it, obviously, because they have to, but it's quite chilly this morning. I've even had to add my scarf. So just by standing under a marula tree or up against a big bush willow or some tree like that will provide a fair amount of shelter. But everybody's not frozen, even the hardy-da. Just having a bit of a rest now. Maybe it's full. Tom, you know what? Occasionally we can see ostrich. There was this one time, though, I think it was also early 2017, where I pretty much went everywhere chasing after an ostrich that was leaving footprints on the ground, and I kept missing it. It was a nightmare. Some of you may remember. I was convinced at one point that somebody was just running around putting ostrich footprints on the ground, you know, just trying to tease me. So this isn't really the greatest area. They do prefer open sort of areas, and again, there aren't that many up here in the north. So you can see ostriches down south, so Sabi, Londolozi, Sangita, those kinds of areas where there's a lot of the open areas are not natural. They've been created many, many years ago, and they've kind of kept them open. But that has allowed for a lot of birds like, well, ostriches, and again, quelias, widow birds, widers, anything like that, even larks, a lot more lark species. They'll live out in those open areas. I mean, you could potentially see them here on this Chitra sort of open area, and then this area below the airstrip. Those would be two spots. Wonderful. But we'll probably move on from here. I'm just waiting for the rain to subside slightly, because I said to Craig, I'm not worried about getting wet. It's my shoe, though. I don't want my shoes to get wet, because I've only got one pair here, and I don't want to have to be wearing running shoes on safari. That's for sure. Wonderful. Well, we'll slowly push on and keep looking for animals. Off we go to Steve, who seems to be sticking with the elephants.
Well, everybody, welcome back. We are still with this beautifully large herd of elephants, and I'm really finding it difficult to know where exactly to look. I've got males coming in left and right. There's babies suckling, babies rubbing their bottoms against trees, herds everywhere. Seems like this open area is the port of call this morning, and the rain. Here comes another male into the fray. He's going to cause some drama, no doubt. And we'll see as he walks towards a female how the female is going to react. There she's got a very small youngster on the left. Now you'll see how she reacts. He might smell them, sniff them. Well, he's going to go straight through. But to the left, where he's headed, is a bigger bull who is doing all sorts of trouble there. And he's smelling all the ladies. Can you imagine that? Ladies and gentlemen out there walking around a nightclub and just giving everyone you see a sniff. It wouldn't go down very well in human society, would it? Okay, so now you see the male to the right now, how he's turned his shoulder. He knows that male, look how he's turning. He's showing submissive behavior there. That other male is much bigger than he is. Now he turns his back in a sign of, okay, you're the bigger boy. Let me move out of the way. That is how elephants behave. That's how, when they are submissive, they turn their shoulder. He's now stuck his head in the bush and is thinking more about, I'm not going to hang out here. I might get out of here. Hello, Carol. No, when an elephant bull in must walks into the fray, everyone moves out of his way. There's no chance, unless another bull is of equal size and in must himself. He'll rather just stand aside and let the big bull do his thing. The one thing about must, which is interesting, is that because elephant bulls get even bigger and bigger with age, they become more reproductive. Must is one of those wild cards that if, for example, this bull we're seeing is smaller than that other bull, if this bull was in must and the other bull was not, he would displace the bigger bull. But if this younger bull was in must and he arrived where a bigger bull was in must, he would immediately drop out of must and leave the area. But it's sort of that wild card to allow genetic sort of variation so that other bulls can still breed with the herds, adding some genetics to the herds over time. But for the most part, this is the time of year when most females want to mate, and it's the time of year when the biggest, strongest and smelliest bulls and must move around, do their thing. Oh, that is a brand new little one. Hello, Miles. The biggest elephant bull that I've seen. I mean, I think they are 3.5 meters at the shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. It's about 12 foot. It is very, very big. 12 feet is a very big animal. If you've ever tried to stand next to a big elephant, you are completely dwarfed in size. Now, these elephants we're seeing around here, there's lots of them and lots of females that would dwarf us, but they're looking small in comparison to these big males. So it's very hard to really get a gauge of their size unless they happen to come right up close to the car and then they stood next to us. As the rain has now decided to switch itself on, we are probably going to have to close our sides, Jean-Andre, don't you think? We are indeed. But you can see that there's a lot of activity going on here. There's not only feeding, it's also a social sort of holiday. All of these young elephants meeting each other for the first time, or seeing each other on a holiday like you would when you go down to the coast and meet your cousins and all of that. It is a time of plenty for the elephants. And, well, we are going to stay here with them. We're just going to close our roof slightly. And while we do that, let's go back up to the Masai Mara with Patricia.
Oh, I apologise for that, everybody. I did not realise I was live, but we just had an elephant walk right past the vehicle. That was absolutely unreal. What a cool experience that was. I'm not sure whether we got that on camera. I'm sorry, I didn't realise I was live. But anyway, even cooler stuff in the works. There is a cheetah nearby, I have heard. So we have been hastily making our way down. We just had to stop to let that elephant pass. And now we are back. Whoop. Now we got another one who's just going to have a little bit of a moment here. Sorry, mate. And on we go. So yes, again, a strange spot to find cheetah. We are still kind of right near we were to start with, near where we found that giraffe, just a little bit further over towards the other side now. So it's weird to have cheetah come in this close. If anyone was watching yesterday with Lauren, we had one along the river road, which is also very close to camp. So yeah, I'm not sure what's bringing them in, and I'm not sure. I believe this may be the same one as well. I've heard it's a lone cheetah, a single one, and that is the same as yesterday. And considering the area that it's in, I'm pretty confident that it is the one from yesterday, that female. That's from the reports that Lauren gave me, has not actually been seen here in the Mara before. So it would be epic if we can get this cheetah. It would be the second time I've seen cheetah now in the Mara, the other day as well. Dacre wants to know what average weight an elephant can get to. Sorry, James is just... Yeah. Okay, so I think James has spotted the cheetah. Sorry, just got to keep an eye out here. I will come back to this question in a second. Well, I really want to get this. Sorry everyone, I'm just looking very intently right now. Alright, so it's here. Oh, yep, I see it. So, sorry. Alright, so we found it, everyone. Exciting times. Just gonna get in a good spot that we can see it. Alright. There we go, we found it. There we have it. So obviously sitting in that long grass right there makes it hard to see the full body, but that is most definitely a cheetah head. How very exciting. So it does seem to be quite flat right now. Cheetahs do tend to hunt more in the day than at night time. That is what the books will tell you, but that's not to say that they do not hunt at night. Actually, Lauren got an attempted hunt right after dark the other day, so they are definitely not always in the daytime, but they do this to avoid predators, as you'll mostly find the bigger predators like a lion hunting at night time. Trish says, woohoo! And that is also what I am saying as well, because we found it. Very great start to this morning. I was actually also, my original plan to go along that river road, I was also going to see if this cheetah was still hanging around, because that was the route that Lauren got it on yesterday. But we actually heard from Bongay, our cameraman. He was out doing a bit of a mission this morning to see what he could find. And we got the word that there was a cheetah about. So very happy, very happy. Now, as for the gender or ID of this, I'm not sure. Chris is saying he's very happy. He hasn't seen a cheetah in a very long time. So that is awesome. I'm glad we could show it to you. There's actually been quite a few sightings around lately, a lot more than last time I was here in November. We went for many searches, me and Stivovo, when I was here last, and we did not find one. So far we've had, well, this is our third or fourth cheetah in a week or so. Oh, and sorry, just back to that question from Gator about the average weight of a newborn elephant. It's about 200 pounds or so, give or take. Anyway, let's stay with this cheetah and see if it does decide to do anything during the day. In the meantime, let's go back down to Stevovo in Djuma.
Welcome back, everybody. We are batting down the hatches, and we have got some young elephant bulls here, probably in their late teens, maybe even late teens, sort of hanging around the periphery of the herd, and they're having a little bit of a pushing, shoving competition. And as soon as the one decided it's had enough, it does exactly what we saw earlier with that other bull, turns its shoulder and shows, okay, I've had enough. So turning your back on the elephants, that's exactly what they do as a form of submissive behavior. I'm just trying to do up my boot here. Happen to have the rain cover, dripping rain down, and it went all the way into my sock. But we are still with this really nice big herd of elephants, but unfortunately we are surrounded by canvas. Carol, I mean, I wouldn't know how to tell you if a female's an estrus, but there's a lot of pheromones and hormones that she gives off that the males can smell, just like most other animals. Okay, so these youngsters are getting very wet. We're going to go see those elephants over there. So it's just like we talk about the phlegm and grimace. I know Lauren was doing the phlegm and grimace the other day, and Jamie is apparently on Google Pics for the phlegm and grimace. Elephants have also got a Jacobson organ in the roof of their mouth, but you obviously don't see them doing this weird thing with their face because, well, they got a huge trunk and nose here, but they do, the top of their mouth, they've got these 2 holes about the size of my fingers. And when an elephant does this with its trunk into its mouth, that is what it's doing. It's accessing that organ of Jacobson, and all sorts of other chemical communication are going around. So these elephant bulls walk through the herd, and they find where a female is urinated. They'll sniff the urine, and then they'll go, oh, where's this one? And then they'll be able to follow her, because their sense of smell is very, very good. Okay, well, all those elephants seem to have moved down into that very thick sort of area. So we're going to get back to the road now. We just went off a little bit in this open area. Very, very nice to see the family of elephants doing their thing. That's the largest herd of elephants I think I've seen in many, many months. Many months. Which is very, very special. Patricia, I have not seen a live elephant birth. No, I've missed them by a couple of minutes. I've definitely heard it going on and wondered what was happening with the herd, because the herd comes together and they bunch together in a very cohesive unit, and then the female who's giving birth, she just seemingly drops the baby in the middle of the herd, and then the whole herd stands there picking it up. I've definitely seen the end. We're just going to get back to the road here. It's getting too thick over there. So then they just stand around. Have you ever found a group of elephants standing together in sort of like a what's the word? A boma-like sort of situation, all standing guard around a central piece, and then you have a look, and in the middle they pick up a little baby. It's really, really special. I know Tristan missed it by minutes as well last year. I think it was at Chelapan. He found exactly the same thing happening, because just like when males come in here and they want to mate with the females, there's always some form of noise and screaming and excitement that happens. And when elephants give birth, it's the same story. All the females know that the female who's about to give birth is there, and they all rally in support, and it's really something quite special. I'd like to see the actual thing happen. I saw the buffalo giving birth last year, but not yet an elephant. But it is the sort of time of year where elephants will be dropping their babies. A couple months ago as well, November, December, January, we were talking about musk bulls and when females want to mate, and it's a 22-month gestation period, so just shy of 2 years. So the females want their babies around this time when the vegetation is very, very good. So it's why so many of them will come into estrus at this sort of stage. Not all of them, of course, but most of them. Okay, well, we are getting positively soaked here. This is great. Okay, well, Pat is... I actually thought Pat asked me the question before when you said Patricia, but clearly wasn't him. But on Pat's note, let's go back over to him and his very fast cheetah.
Yes, very dry indeed, high and dry right now as we are sitting with this beautiful cheetah. Now, my best guess is that this is the one that Lauren found yesterday, this single female that was a little bit further sort of to the east yesterday, but still in a range that is quite peculiar to find cheetah in. This longer grass, and there's a little bit more densely vegetated here than the usual cheetah sightings, which are up sort of more towards the Tanzanian border. A beautiful cat, much different to the other cats I was looking for earlier, the lions. The lions are more of a, I don't know, Range Rover, whereas the cheetah is a sports car. Ryan, why do lions stay in a pride, but other big cats remain solo? Well, that is all to do with social dynamics. So lions in a pride, they will be related brothers and sisters. And once the males start to become sexually active and aggressive and start to really favour the women, they will be kicked out of the pride. And so they will have to find their own pride and be the dominant male. Whereas with cheetahs, it's not more that way, in that it is the males will kind of just search for females and mate with as many females as they can, and the females will remain solitary throughout this. And they use their speed and their agility to catch prey, whereas lions use that strength and their cunning to catch prey. So it's kind of to do with both their social dynamics and their feeding modes as well. You'll often see a cheetah take down smaller prey items using a lot of speed, whereas lions will take down larger prey items using their, such as this buffalo over here, using both their power and their numbers as well. And so the promiscuity of cheetahs contribute to their solitary lifestyles. Now, we had a question asking how fast do cheetah run. So it's between about 100 and 120 kilometres an hour, the books will tell you. So in miles per hour, that is about... So that question was from Jennifer. So in miles per hour, that is about... I'm still getting my head around these conversions from kilometres to miles, but I think it's about 75 miles per hour is 120, which is kind of their upper limit. Now, looks like got a little bit of a prick up. Okay, she's spotted something. He or she, I'm assuming it's the she. I can't see what it is. We have had a bit of a head prick up. It's good to get a better view of her anyway now. What have you seen? Perhaps nothing? Maybe it was the buffalo that got the attention. So I definitely do not think it is going to hunt. Absolutely beautiful. The buffalo there, the cheetah in the foreground, the backdrop of the Mara. I'm a very lucky boy this morning. Very lucky indeed. Still just kind of shocked that we are finding cheetah around here as well. I mean, definitely not complaining, but it is quite strange. Now, over to our right, there seems to be a lot of antelope. I'm seeing zebra as well. I don't think a cheetah would take down a zebra, definitely not, especially not alone, but there does seem to be some gazelle and some topi over the other side of me here. There's those zebra I was speaking of. Nancy wants to know, is this a young cheetah? Well, as for the age of it, I'm not 100% sure, but it would definitely be old enough to have reached sexual maturity and go out on its own. So it's definitely past that adolescence stage and is now going solo, which is what you will see females cheetahs do quite often. Once they have stayed with their mother for quite a bit of time, they will end up moving off and going away by themselves. But it does also seem to be pretty full grown as well. As I said though, it is a bit hard to see the full specifics of it, just as it is still quite hidden in that grass. Very, very cool. Yvette is so happy it's her favourite cat. Well, I'm so glad we could bring it to you. I still think lions are my favourite cat, but now that I'm spending a little bit more time with cheetah, I'm sure that dynamic may start to change. But, I mean, leopards are also right up. I mean, I love all the big cats. They're all such amazing creatures. So incredible. had to guess the age of this one, I would say probably about 4 or 5 years old. Very, very cool. And as I was saying, that comparison between lions and cheetahs, lions being much heavily built and built for power, whereas these guys are built for speed. And one thing I love watching with cheetahs in cheetah hunt videos is how they use that tail to counterbalance themselves when they're traveling at such high speeds. I mean, all of their adaptations are made to facilitate this real burst of speed. They can go from 0 to 45 miles an hour in just a few seconds, which is unreal. Of course, not having those protractable claws either. Their claws are kind of always stuck out, which helps them grip into the ground and get their balance when they are running at such a high speed. And I do say protractable claws, not retractable claws with lions, because if you actually have ever seen a video of the ligaments being pushed on, you can see that the claws actually go out when activated by muscles and stay in when they're relaxed. Therefore, they are protractable. Anyway, this cheetah seems to be interested in something, but we'll quickly go to Taylor, and hopefully this will unfold into something action-packed.
Oh, sorry everybody. I'm Faith. I'm just gonna warn you now. I think this cable has got wet, this comms cable, and I know it's been giving us some problems. So we're watching a Speaks Hinge tortoise run away, sprinting back into the grass. It's just come out to have a drink, and now it is disappearing. Wonderful. Faith, can you say something for me? I just want to quickly check, because I moved it slightly now when we couldn't hear you. Just waiting for Faith. No. Go on, hey Craig. Okay. It seems as though it has disappeared. Ish. There, you coming and going. I can't turn. I've got my scarf on and my neck. Oh. Okay, I don't know what's happening. I can't hear you anymore. I need to, it's just this cable that I think has got wet, unfortunately. I know Conrad did a quick fix, but there's no way to keep it dry. Unless we tape a plastic bag over it, which we might have to do. Oh my goodness. Rain, I know you're so wonderful, but can you just like rain in the dams and not on us? That'd be nice if we could have very localized rain this morning, because we're soaked. I've tried to keep my shoes dry, literally. Okay, I think I heard what Faith said. We're going to try and troubleshoot our communication here, but off you go to Pat back in the Mara. Sorry I couldn't give you a long enough break.
Well, the cheetah is still pricked up and noticing some Thompson's gazelle that are just over to the right of us at the moment. I think a few of them did know this is a cheetah because there was a lot of running and a lot of jumping about. Oh, now they have run off in the complete other direction. The cheetah's watching them intently. So I'm just having a look out there. So they were kind of running towards the other direction, but then once they noticed the cheetah, they kind of came back. We quite often see this, that the prey will move closer to the predator because they would much rather have one in sight than not at all. So here's one of the gazelle. We can see that it's a little bit stirred up there. The other have moved kind of off in the other direction. And the cheetah now is just scanning. So I know we did have a few attempts at a hunt yesterday with Lauren, but no successful hunts. So I'm not sure what happened last night, but I dare say this one would be wanting to find itself a nice meal. And I can really only assume that that has what has brought it down here, this far down, is the abundance of food. Perhaps there's a little bit more competition up further, and that has driven it down here where there is quite a lot of antelope. It keeps putting its head in this direction, but I just can't see. I'm just going to poke my head around and see what is down that way. A buffalo. A buffalo. Do not even think about it, little cheetah. And back down it goes. So I do think I am going to try and stay with this cheetah today. Hopefully get some action with it. It's most likely to be hunting today. As I did say, they do prefer the daytime, where competition is a lot less from those other big cats. Wisteria is saying, look at those meaningful eyes on her. Aren't they something else? I mean, I go on about how looking into a lion's eyes is so peaceful and moving, but looking into cheetah's eyes is really just whole new experience in itself. You can tell that they're quite an intelligent animal, and they just have this real, I don't know, softness in their gaze. It's really just a moment you remember. A moment you remember. Even the brief few moments I spent with those two the other day are still seared into my memory. Such special sightings. It's doing a closed eye scan there. Perhaps letting its listening do the work for it. That looked quite funny. Lemmy wants to know whether gazelle are faster than impala. Yes, they are. I'm not 100% certain of the top speed of an impala, but I know that Thompson's gazelle have been clocked at up to 95 to 100 k's an hour, so sort of around that 45 mile per hour mark. And they also have the advantage over cheetah in that they have the carotid reed system, which is essentially a network of veins and arteries that allows cool blood to be entering the brain so their body doesn't overheat. And this allows them to sustain a speed for a higher amount of time than what a cheetah can. So although the cheetah can reach a higher top speed, between this carotid reed system and the zigzagging pattern that a gazelle will make when they are chased, it does give them a little bit of an advantage, so it kind of evens that playing field between the two. Anyway, as I said, we will stay with this little cheetah and hopefully some action does unfold. Let's go to Stevovo back down in South Africa.
Welcome back to what is slowly becoming a less wet morning. The rain seems to have stopped, so shortly we will be able to stand up and put our rain roof back up on itself so that we don't have this tunnel vision that we are now stuck with. Woodland kingfisher off to the left just called. They love the rain. And this kudu, though, is feeding on all of the little forbs. There's lots of foxglove there. We've been watching it eat, and also some sesame. They are, for the most part, browsers, so when you see them with their head down like that, they're invariably feeding on some form of forb. There we go. The entire plant there will do. Now, the question was asked earlier today if elephants were ruminants, and they are not, but kudu most certainly are. And you'll see that the kudu spends time feeding, and will take the entire plant, as you can see it, chew it very slightly, just to break it up, and then swallow it with a fair amount of saliva. Linda, kudu's like you at pizza. No hands, just dive in with your face. There's some oxpeckers along for the ride, do a bit of cleaning. And so the kudu is busy feeding on foxglove and all sorts of other forbs there. And then once it's filled its belly, she can go and sit somewhere safe, or in the shade if it's hot, or somewhere where she can see what's going on. And then she'll regurgitate all of those plant parts into her mouth, where she will chop them up into much smaller parts, adding lots more saliva for the breakdown through the process of rumination. Tom, she is beautiful, isn't she? And look how she's gone into the thickets now, and well, there we go. That is it. Thankfully, we were able to see her because she was right in the middle of this open area in front of us, and at the moment we still got tunnel vision, but we'll be lifting these shortly, so we'll be able to see more than just this little bit over here. But obviously we have moved on from the elephants. We left them to do their thing. They disappeared into the thickets, and we're going to slowly make our way to the hyena den and see what's going on there, if that's all right with everybody. Unless Taylor's already there. I haven't heard anything on the radio. But when it's raining like this and it's coming in from all angles, it's important. Oh, there's a second kudu. There's always more than one, everybody. When you think you've spotted the kudu, spend another moment and you will spot another one. That is the design of their spot pattern or stripes. In the thickets, they are invisible unless they're moving. Very pretty animals, in very good condition at the moment, because the amount of wild flowers, forbs and leaves on the trees at the moment are very, very good. If you remember seeing the nyalas and the kudus in October, November time, they were looking in a very bad way. Even when I got back in December, January from the Mara, the kudus were not looking good at all. I remember seeing their hips sticking out, all developing a bit of mange. But have a look at the hips now, looking in fine condition. Moses, I don't know if they get lonely. Obviously, these animals like to hang out in groups for safety. Maybe not for company. They do it for safety. But an animal that is not in a group, she's giving herself a bit of a clean. An animal that's not in a group spends far too much time looking around than they do eating. So they lose condition. So it's in their best interest to be in a group. She's eating a red bush willow now. Listening. Lots of moisture on the trees, you can see. So these animals can get a lot of their moisture this morning from just feeding on the vegetation, which eliminates the need to go very far to drink. One of those dangerous strategies. The leopards are always lying up in ambush, lions as well. So you can see how she's just stuffing her face with the leaves, not doing too much in the way of actually eating them. And that's one of the benefits of being a ruminant, is that they can feed for short periods of time and then they can go and relax somewhere in safety and then sort of regurgitate and maximize the benefits of those plant parts. Whereas elephants and rhino have to eat constantly. It's a non-stop shoving of food into the face for an elephant. Whereas the kudu, impala, buffalo, they can all feed in times when it's comfortable to do so, and then avoid the heat of the day when the sun is shining. Obviously, on a day like this, oh, those oxpeckers are mating on its back there, Jean-Dre, if you just go back. Oh, the oxpeckers were having some fun. Uh-oh, there's a dance going on, everybody. Wow, we're watching the oxpecker dance. Oh, hello, that was quick. Fantastic. What do you think the kudu thinks about that? Birds mating on her back. I don't know. I'd be very happy. I don't know if I'd be too happy if birds landed on me and did a little mating dance and mated on my back. She doesn't seem to be too bothered there, though. Wow, let me move around. Maybe we get some of that again. That is a first for me, mating oxpeckers on a back. Have you seen that before, Jean-Dre?
No.
I suppose if you're an oxpecker and you spend a majority of your time on big animals' backs, where else are you going to mate? Where else are you going to meet the love of your life than on the back of a herbivore? And that'll be one to tell the kids. We met one day on the back of a kudu. It was a wet and gloomy morning. There we go. Let's see if we can get them again. I got that zygodactyl feet, everybody. 2 toes forward, 2 toes backwards, which allows them to hold on to the fur. And woodpeckers have got the same foot structure to allow them to hold on to bark. And for clinging. And the fur of the kudu is not very long. Imagine that, mid-coitus, they would slip off the back because they're not holding on properly. That would be hilarious. Lauren, she is indeed being violated. I don't think she minds too much. But that was funny. That was very funny. How about a one-word tweet from everybody? Hashtag SafariLive. How did that make you feel? Or how would that make you feel if it was your back? Okay, so with our rain covers down like this, we need to do these sort of big concentric loops to try and get in front of this animal. I'm just going to have another look. She's looking at me going, what are you doing here? So I've no doubt a lot of the one-word tweets are going to be laughing, just LOL. There we go. Really is nice to see kudu. What did you see there, my darling? She saw Gendre. She's got a very characteristic white stripe on her bottom there. Can you see that? It'd be quite easy to identify her. The oxpeckers are flying off. They've had their fun. So you notice how the kudus move through the vegetation, feeding for a few moments on each plant before moving off. Same as the elephants, unless elephants push over a big tree. They generally feed for a short period of time before moving off. It's all part and parcel of how the plants survive and how everything works. And it's the reason why areas need to be large for conservation animals, because plants have the potential to develop or pick up or increase their chemical component in the leaves so as to avoid being eaten. Obviously, they can be eaten to a point, but they don't want to be eaten overly. Grasses like being grazed to an extent, just like mowing lawn. If you graze lawn, it actually responds to it. Fern, you say amused. Yes, it was very amusing. I agree with you. It was if I hadn't had such an amazing elephant sighting this morning, I would have said that's the highlight for my morning. It's definitely a first for me. Can check that one off the bucket list. Oxpeckers mating on a kudu's back. Okay, well, the kudu clearly doesn't want to be seen anymore. So, Genre, let's go on. Let's go see if we can find these naughty hyena. Would you like that, everybody? Who knows what will be going on at the den? Who will be there today? Just before we get there, though, we'll zip up these roofs and put them out of the way so we don't stick to this tunnel vision. There we go. There's oxpecker in the road. Off they go. Okay, well, we're just going to head around the corner, stop, lift the roofs up, and then get to the hyena den. But while we do that, Pat is still with his cheetah. Let's go and find out all the interesting stuff.
Still here with the cheetah. Still hasn't moved much, but we did have a little gazelle wander onto the scene, and it does appear to have caught the attention of the cheetah. So the gazelle is just to our left, probably about just under 100 meters, so a bit over 30 feet. I mean, a bit over 300 feet, sorry, from this cheetah. And it is completely unaware of it right now, and the cheetah does seem to have eyes on it, but isn't really making any moves as of yet. It does have the advantage now of being hidden in the long grass. When the chase, if a chase starts, that won't be so much of an advantage, but now it does help to hide it. We can see it's very well hidden there, and it's also got that disruptive coloration as well in the form of spots all over its body, which kind of helps to break up its figure and make it harder to see. Yvette, do I think he or she will hunt? I do think we will get a hunt. I'm not sure when it will happen, but as I said yesterday, Lauren was with, I believe, this same cheetah, and it went about 3 times, she said. It had 3 attempts at hunting, but all were unsuccessful. And then unfortunately, they did lose it as it was starting to come into the night time. So I'm not sure what happened after that, but just judging by how it looks now, when it stood up before, I mean, it didn't look completely full. So we do often see that cheetah do have that kind of smaller physique, but it did look like it could use a feed. And it has seemed interested in a lot of prey items this morning. It's definitely been looking in a lot of different directions and taking notice. So I am really hoping and I am feeling confident for a hunt at some stage during the day. Wouldn't that be absolutely epic? That would be right up there with the top things to see here in the Mara. Elizabeth, why do animals never seem to sleep? Well, that is because they have very different living modes to us humans. So it's actually quite unusual that us humans spend so much time sleeping all night. So it will often be the prey animals that you'll see rarely sleeping. So they'll, rather than sleep, they'll go into a state of slow metabolism and everything will start to slow down so they can heal and recover. And even if they do end up going to sleep, it's generally only for a short amount of time and when they are around the protection of others in their species. So you have to be on your toes out here in the wild. For example, a good example actually of this is giraffe. So you'll see young giraffe often lying down sleeping when they are around their mothers, but as they start to get older and older, you'll see them do this less and less. Don't get me wrong, you do see the odd giraffe still laying down and sleeping, but most of the time they will enter this kind of dream-like state where they are still sleeping in a way or resting. So we have what looks to be another gazelle. So there's plenty of opportunity for food for the cheetah around here. Seems to be there are a lot of gazelle. We see a herd of buffalo in the background as well. Plenty of animals around this area. It's actually not one that I have been to so much before, but obviously has some stuff happening. Now, I was trying to think of that word of what it was, that state of rest, and it's called torpor. That's right. I was thinking topography, but that is a completely different word. Torpor is that word I was looking for, which is that state of inactivity and that state of rest. So if this is the cheetah from yesterday, then its life is a bit of a mystery. Hasn't really ever been spotted down this way. And so if that is the case, well then we wonder whether we have a new character on our hands here. So that gazelle seems to have continued to drift along. I think it's just a bit too far away for this cheetah to do anything about. Janet wants to know what happened with that buffalo and the 3 males the other day. Well, what happened was after we finished broadcasting, I stayed with them for about another 15-20 minutes. But what I was worried would happen, it did happen, and the sun got just too hot for the lions to be out hunting, and they ended up retreating down to the river and finding some shade, and that is where we lost them. But I did go back the next couple of days to kind of follow up. There was definitely no sign of those calf or buffalo anywhere to be seen, but there was a lot of lion tracks around the river. So they're obviously inhabiting that area. I believe it was the Paradise Pride, from what I have been told. So they seem to have stayed around that area. There's a lot of food, a lot of shade, and a lot of water there. So it's definitely a spot that I think I'll be checking up on more frequently. Tracking isn't something we often do in the Mara, so to find a decent set of lion tracks was actually really exciting. Oh, cheetah has sat up again. I believe it is looking at that gazelle that we just were looking at before that was directly in front. I'm not sure whether something is going to happen. This gazelle has noticed it though, definitely, and is running towards it. So the gazelle on the left has seen the cheetah. Oh, big stretch. And I think it knows it's been seen as well. It is doing the whole whistling. Ooh, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. I quite often enjoy seeing lions do that. Lions, when they are stalking prey, if the prey turns around and see them, they just pretend like nothing has happened. As if someone has caught them doing something extremely naughty. Almost like when you walk in on your dog and it's chewing up a pillow. But yeah, it's a brave move by prey to stand closer and see the predator, but I guess you'd rather see it than not. Mr. Tech, will a cheetah kill a serval? Well, I don't think they would exclusively go hunting for a serval, because they are both in the cat family, and maybe if the food was scarce and the opportunity presented itself, there may be something along those lines happening, but I haven't really ever heard of many interactions between cheetah and serval. Do live quite different lifestyles apart from both being small cats. The serval is quite a lot smaller. I was reading up on the serval the other day. They're quite formidable hunters for their size. 1 in every 2 hunts is successful, which may not seem like much, but when you compare it to a lion, it is very successful. Lions will often only get about 1 in 5, 1 in 6 hunts. Servals 1 in 2, which is very cool. I had an awesome night with servals the other night. Actually, we had 3 servals and 2 honey badger, all in about 15 minutes, which is very, very cool. Well, I will stay with this spotty feline for probably the rest of the drive, I would say, in the hopes that something is going to happen. But there are more animals with spots out there, some being hyena, and I believe Steve is at their den.
Why, thank you, Pat. Indeed, a cheetah would most certainly kill other predators if they could. I don't think they're most aggressive of the predators, but servals definitely will compete with certain types or certain areas with cheetah. But we have found one of the members at the den site. I'm trying to figure out who this is because there's a lot of new activity on the left ear. So I'm sure some of you are going to be able to identify it much quicker than I am. I haven't been able to see any spots so far. All you can see is a very wet and soggy hyena. And the left ear has got a fresh gouge out of it. So my first thoughts were to say ribbon because of that ear. But there's some fresh activity there. That is a great shot. That's what Jamie said in her identification of the hyena family earlier this year. She spoke at length about how it's hard to use ears exclusively because, well, the ears change, and hyenas, especially low-ranking hyenas, are going to get bitten there a lot. And to become a queen of the hyenas, you're also going to get bitten a lot. So there's constantly things happening to their ears, and there's some fresh stuff happening there right now. but I'm going to open my ID kit and see if I can figure it out. It's definitely not heart. That's 100% certain. It's definitely not corky or pretty. So is it ribbon? I wonder if any of you out there are going to be able to confirm it for me, because unless it is June, who's got some very fresh activity on her ear, but I'm thinking it's ribbon from... Oh, she doesn't. She's like, go away. I've had a late night. Go away. How many of you felt like doing that this morning when you woke up? Just put your arm over your head and turn off the light. You know when someone comes into your room and turns the light on when you're still sleeping? That's exactly what's just happened there. So, hashtag SafariLive, who is this? We'll wait for your answers to come back. I think it's ribbon, but without seeing any more spots, it's hard for me to say. But sounds like Taylor's managed to sort out her technical issues. Let's go back over to her.
We have indeed. We've sorted our issues out. All thanks goes to Conradi, the technical genius of the Sabi Sand. He managed to very swiftly replace a cable, which was awesome. So now Rusty should no longer have any issues with its communication, which is lovely. We found now also all the impala in the Sabi Sand, like we had at Chitwa the other day. We've got about the same amount here on Quarantine, which is the open area just behind camp. And there's two youngsters just showing one another a little bit of affection this morning. Well, then also a headbutt. Can hear the woodland kingfisher calling. The rain has finally let up. The birds will be very chuffed about that. This will actually be a very good time to do some birding, because they'll all be perched right up on the tops of the branches or down on the ground, just trying to dry their feathers out. But we have the roof on, so we'll try our best. But it could be quite nice to see some, maybe we'll see some unusual birds we don't get to see all the time. And then, of course, the wildebeest, just lurking about. Also, pushing and shoving one another. Can you imagine if that's how we treated everyone? Hey, Craig, just, if I wanted you to move out of the way, I'm just going to push you. Instead of saying, excuse me. Or if you're from South Africa, you say sorry instead of excuse me all the time. Tom, I can't say that I've ever seen wildebeest and impala specifically fighting before. To say that they don't, I think they could. Remember I was telling a story, or maybe you didn't hear, Tom, I think it was a few days ago, I told a story about the baboon versus the impala with the pods from the anna trees. And I reckon that baboon would have even had a go at a waterbuck, or even actually any animal that came too close. I think she would have been very upset with. Obviously, she wouldn't be able to grab hold of a waterbuck because they're, far larger than a baboon. But I think she might have showed some teeth or done something, to try and deter it. So they will fight, but again, under sort of very stressful conditions. So if it's a drought, they're all competing for food, there's just nothing around, then yes, you can definitely see animals of different species fighting. Look at elephants, for example, how they'll often dominate over watering holes and won't let anybody else come down to drink if it's a small one. The wildebeest is chasing the impala, though. Do you see that little one down there? Look at this. There goes the little wildebeest, thinks it's an impala today and is playing with all of them. Just trying to think. Let's just sit here for 2 seconds because they might come round. Otherwise, we'll reposition. So I don't think it's particularly uncommon, though, of young species of various animals to engage in play. Obviously, you're not going to see an impala, lamb, and a lion playing together, but these sort of animals that are fairly social with one another and are eating the same things. So, for example, maybe a zebra foal or wildebeest calf or impala lamb, or like I was saying the other day, little rhinos and young elephants are, notorious for chasing other animals around. Look, go, fetch it. That is so sweet. That is absolutely precious. Hopefully they come back around. It'll be quite nice to kind of watch them do that. Very precious. And you can just see the adults. They're not particularly concerned, but they're just sort of just keeping an eye over everybody and just making sure things don't get out of hand. Rob, I agree with you. I think blue wildebeest and impala, for that matter, have really, really lovely, lush sort of coats. They're beautiful animals. And now after the rain, they'll give themselves a good groom at some point. And it should be quite nice. Nice and smooth, nice and clean. Get rid of a whole lot of parasites. That wildebeest there on the right. What are you doing? Having a roll? Oh, here come the little bounding babies. How epic is this? Everyone's running now. I don't think they know why they're running. Or perhaps they're also just as happy as we are that the rain has finally stopped. There they go again. They're going to come round. Here they come, Craig. Bucking and bronking. It is a lovely scene, isn't it? Everyone's fighting with one another now. Tweety Kid, you could quite easily see why I will often spend quite a bit of time watching wildebeest play. Wildebeest are hilarious, especially when it's very windy. I think that's the best time to watch wildebeest, because the wind gets right up their tail and sends them round and round in circles. The little ones, again, they get a bit of a spring in their step and they all start bounding about, which is nice. It's nice to see animals so playful. Look at that. I mean, did you ever think that a wildebeest was so athletic that it could bounce about on just its hind legs and spin and pirouette like that? Love, Hope, Faith, it does kind of look like they're playing tag. Hey, I agree with you there. I like it. I mean, we know how important playing is with different animals, but, you know, potentially also increases the bonds between the wildebeest too by playing with one another, by being social, having fun. I mean, I think animals are allowed to have fun too. I don't think anyone will disagree with me. Okay, their fun versus our fun might just be slightly different. But in the end, they're living with one another. There needs to be some kind of bonding. And, you know, we know the sort of the best way is to groom one another, to sort of show affection, which is also typically seen between a mother and calf. But it's also not uncommon to see it between the other members of the herd. Francis, yes, 100%. All the animals that we're looking at, they can all understand one another. Maybe they're all just speaking with slightly different accents. But when a wildebeest shouts lion, an impala knows exactly what it's talking about. They even know which direction to look in. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Whether it's because the animal has shouted and said lion west, or it's just got lion and then they look at the animal that is alarming and take it from there. I don't really know. With those kinds of things, we can really only speculate. Such a beautiful scene. Again, it's important to appreciate moments like this. We don't always sit and spend time with the wildebeest or the impala. Typically because they're eating all the time, they're kind of doing the same thing. But on days like today, when they now all might have a roll around in the sand, or you'll have the impala bounding in and out of frame, it's quite nice. But I promise you, when you see these creatures in real life, you'll be absolutely blown away. What's going on over here now? All the impala running towards us now. I think they must have heard the others bounding about and just came running in this direction just in case. This is truly, truly special. I hope you're all getting some nice screenshots because it's beautiful with the lush green grass. Okie dokie. Well, that was nice. The sighting is now starting to fade away and everybody's going to carry on with their day. So will we. Off you go to Steve, who's now got his nose in the flowers.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, the hyena that we were there with had gone inside the hole and probably suckling, but we haven't seen her again. She pops her head out every now and again, but, well, Jean decided, let's look at the beautiful flowers, beautiful hibiscus flowers that are lowered themselves in the moisture. Well, probably as the heaviness of the rain caused them to sort of wilt slightly, or maybe it's a way of keeping the water from flushing all the goodness out. Hard to say, but they're all hanging down. And Jean plucked one of those yesterday and placed it behind my ear. He got me to model on the couch. The couch grass, if you weren't watching yesterday, it was laughable, but anyway. So over there is the one hole. And if we look very closely every now and again, you'll see some ears. There we go, you can actually see an ear. No, that's a blade of grass. So sorry the camera's shaking. Jean is full of mirth this morning. There we go. Told you. Okay, so were there any answers there, Faith, of who this is? Which hyena this is? I know you said something to me earlier, but I didn't quite hear it. What do the viewers think? Who is this lady? Miles says it's Reuben. I don't. Who's Reuben? Is Reuben a male? I'm pretty sure it is a female by the mammary glands we saw and the fact that she's inside the den. I don't think you would get a male inside one of these dens unless the den is inactive and all the youngsters are gone. I don't think a female would allow her in. What does Miles mean, ribbon? I thought it was ribbon by that ear, but I didn't get the best view. Even when she stood up and walked away, didn't get the best view of her stripes. But I wonder if any of you out there who are experts in the matter are able to confirm with us if you know more than Miles or more than myself. Well, everybody, it's not the most exciting time at the hyena den. I'm sure all the youngsters are just hiding inside there. Jamie said yesterday morning that she wishes she could just sneak inside there and cuddle up with the hyena. I remember her saying that as we were getting the tent ready, and I thought, I can't think of anything more gross to go and curl up inside with all the little youngsters. I mean, there's an element of cuteness to it, of course, but the smell must be something otherworldly. So, Lauren and Ramona, you're agreeing it is ribbon. So does that mean that I'm right and Jean-André's wrong? Jean-André's shaking his head, but I think it does mean that I'm right and Jean-André's wrong. It's because the other day we were here and we had June, or we had an individual come to the den with Pretty. Pretty was here, and then a male actually came and stuck his head in. And, well, I thought initially it might have been ribbon without really paying too much attention, but didn't stick around, stuck its nose in, and then was chased off by Pretty. And then when Jean-André was busy logging it, Nikki, now one of our producers, was watching him, and when he's calling her June, she said, there's no way it's June. And then he says ribbon, there's no way it's ribbon. And then we asked the expert, Jamie Patterson, and, well, she was able to say that it was Comet. Was it not Comet, Jean-André? It was Comet, the male. So that's why he wasn't allowed in the den, because he's a male. And, well, they don't like males hanging around too closely. But quite certain right now. I mean, Taylor told me that Ribbon's got 2 brand new youngsters. So I think it's 2. It is the average for hyenas. So what's probably going on right now, what we just can't see it, is she is busy licking them. They might even be suckling. They might be right there underneath her belly. It's hard to say. But it's quite incredible that we're able to spend time at these den sites with not just, oh, there we go, ears again. Not just 1, but 3 females, or 4. Corky, Pretty, June, and Ribbon, which is quite an amazing way to go. I think Jamie was asked yesterday if the Juma clan is growing, and, well, all the females, apart from Heart, seem to have youngsters at the moment, which is definitely a growth spurt, if you ask me. But no one else in attendance that we've managed to notice. I'm sure whatever hyenas are about, they might be moving through, looking for some food, as it is nice and cool this morning. And, well, when you're wet, you might as well go for a walk, don't you think? You know, when you're just wet, well, you might as well just get even wetter. But anyway, I'm sure up in the Masai Mara, it's much drier than it is here, and Pat is sitting in the sunshine looking at his cheetah. Now, I wonder what interesting stories he's got for you this time.
Well, thank you very much, James Richard. He helped to shed light on the identification of this cheetah, and it is, in fact, the one Lauren had yesterday, Busara, the female, sister to Kisaru and daughter of Amani. Amani meaning peace, and Busara meaning wise one in Swahili. So, very good. I really appreciate that. It's good to have an idea and to know which one this is. So, the mother Amani often spends her time across the river from where we are right now. And this one has appeared to come down here, which makes sense as she was born about 3 years ago now. So she is starting to come into sexual maturity now. She's at that age where she may even start to give a litter sometime in the next few months to years. So she is starting to hit that kind of prime cheetah age and will disperse. So you'll never really see grown adult female cheetahs around each other. And this is the same for males, unless, of course, they do form that coalition, generally with their brothers. So they're direct siblings. It's quite hard for a nomadic cheetah to become a part of a coalition. So you can definitely liken the sociality of a cheetah to a leopard rather than a lion. Lions are actually pretty unique amongst the big cats in there. Sorry if you're hearing a bit of vehicle noise right now. There's another one pulling up to this. Mr. Tech wants to know, are cheetahs stronger than dogs? Well, that's a bit of a difficult one to answer, especially with all of the different species of dogs that we have out here. But as I was getting at earlier, cheetah are built more for speed than for power. Obviously, they do need a bit of strength to take down the prey, but all of their adaptations have gone to getting them up to that speed and also being able to control themselves at that speed. So whether or not they are stronger than a dog, I couldn't confidently say. But if... Yep. Someone wanted 10 seconds of fame there, so sorry if you heard a bit of speaking just then. This cheetah is still flat. There doesn't seem to be much in terms of prey now. All of the gazelle have moved away quite a bit. Zavinda wants to know whether the cheetah is saving energy by sitting in the grass or whether it is actually looking for prey. I believe right now it is just resting. We have seen it poke its head up a few times, but nothing really serious. And all of the prey items are kind of either on the horizon or completely out of sight now. So I think this is just a nice spot for a rest right now. But as the day progresses, I do think that we will get some movement and perhaps even a hunt. Can definitely see a bit of movement of the head, a bit of looking around, but ultimately she appears to be resting just for now. Beautiful cat, aren't they? Those black teardrops. So characteristic of them. And of course, this is just like you see baseball players putting black markings under their eyes. It's to keep the sun from reflecting up and getting in their eyes and reduces glare. Shrivant wants to know whether cats cross over from the Serengeti more this time of year. Well, it's a bit hard to say. Territories would be more defined right now and home ranges. So maybe not so much this time of year, more towards the end of the year when the migration comes from the Serengeti. So obviously with all of those herbivores and all of that prey coming up from Tanzania, from the Serengeti into Kenya, this is obviously going to bring the predators along with it. So my guess would be it's more towards the end of the year that we'll start to see cats kind of moving between boundaries more freely. So I think I'm almost more interested in the prey items than the cheetah right now. I'm just always kind of looking around, just scanning the horizon to see what pops up. I've been hungry for a hunt since getting here, whether it's been lions or cheetah or anything really. I've just been really wanting to get one, but none as of yet. Of course, we did have that semi-hunt the other day, a bit of a follow anyway by those lions, but with those 3 young males being amongst them, I don't think they were going to actually do anything there. Tom is saying that Bufara is making him sleepy. Yes, I mean, it does look quite relaxed right now in the long grass. Very well hidden indeed. But, you know, that could all change. It all depends on the cheetah's movements in the day, and that's why it's sometimes worth staking out these animals, these flat cats. So you may not be rewarded immediately, you may not even be rewarded the first few times, maybe not even the first 20 times. But once the rewards come, I can guarantee it's going to be more than worth it. So, very interesting at times here. So we had a question from Mr. Shife, and he was asking how many cheetah are there in the Mara. Well, I'm not 100% sure of the Mara itself, but I know that in Africa there's only about 7,000 cheetah left. But here in the Mara, well, it's hard to say. But from the characters I've seen and from kind of what I've heard recently, it seems like there is about 5 or 6 that are frequently seen around the Masai Mara. But then again, also, the cheetah aren't ones, they're not animals that stay in the same spot very often either. They do tend to move around and kind of change their home ranges and territories every now and again. So it's a bit hard to kind of keep up with the social dynamics and the territories of a cheetah. But yeah, in the Mara, I cannot confidently put a number on it, but it is kind of sad to hear that there is only about 7,000 left in the entire continent of Africa, but it also makes us very blessed to be with them right now, here, actually having this experience with them. Are there any conservation groups in the Mara helping cheetah? Asks Nancy. Well, I'm just trying to rack my brain. There's 2. Maybe 2, there's 1. Yeah, there's definitely a cheetah conservation here in the Masai Mara. I believe it is the Cheetah Conservation Fund. I think it is. But yes, there are efforts here to help the cheetah in the Mara, which is good to see. Yeah, I mean, there is quite a lot of research going on in the Mara here. It's just a matter of seeking it out. So there's a lot of people working behind the scenes, these unsung heroes of this game reserve. Of course, we have the hyena research team that Lauren has been in contact with lately and do tend to interact with us a little bit. So they're doing a lot of good work out here too, and they know their hyenas very intimately. So it's good to have all these different sources out here. And another exciting project that's going on out here is a martial eagle one, where they have actually tagged martial eagles and can get the location of kills. So that could prove to be very interesting, a little project in future times. We are still going to persist with this cheetah. Hopefully we do have something happen soon. But let's go back down to Taylor for a bit of an update on the happenings of Juma.
Very cool that you have got one of Amani's daughters. I remember watching the two of them. I don't think they had names though. They'd kind of just been sort of booted by mom, and I think Manu was with me. We had an amazing sighting one day of them in the Masai Mara side before they decided to cross, or before she decided to cross the Talek River and the Mara River, and they were chasing warthog piglets around. It was really cool. We sat with them for quite a few hours. It was in between game drives. It was really, really nice. They were lovely. So I'm glad to see that at least, well, I don't know where the other sister is, but it's nice to see that one is survived. So we are now driving in the area that Tlalamba likes to hang around, and that she normally walks the same route over and over, but we haven't found any sign of her just yet. But I think she would have been hiding away in the rain. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my seat. I'm sitting very far back. Aha, that's too far. Everyone gets upset with me because I try and sit up very straight to help my posture. I don't know, I'm a sloucher, so I must have a straight seat in my car. And then, yeah, hopefully we will be able to find her. She wasn't in her tree that she likes to sit in, so we might have to go back to Twin Dams, maybe even check Leadwood a little bit, just to see if she hasn't popped out there. But starting to see all the birds moving around. A lot of the animals are coming out from their hidey places, so let's keep our fingers crossed that a cat of sorts will do the same. Or wild dogs. Oh no, not wild. Actually, you know what? I never not hope for wild dogs, but with a roof on, it's a disaster. So let us not. Ryan, I think you just asked about what do you have to do to study African wildlife. Was that correct, Faith? If that's what you asked, you know, supposing you could just come and study zoology in Africa, or, you know, come do a conservation management degree, game farm management, things like that, be a safari guide. Do you know, I was chatting to Kate, who's one of the hyena researchers, but she's since finished her time there in the Mara, and you know, the practical experience that you gain doing what we do every single day is far superior than sitting in a classroom. So yes, even though I haven't studied something, for example, like zoology, I might not have, you know, the background or know all the terminology for different whatever things, I don't know, all the scientific knowledge that comes with studying something like zoology. The fact is that all of the safari guides have got a lot of practical experience, and especially researchers, research assistants, and Wild Earth presenters, and even the cameraman. We've got a whole lot of experience with sitting and watching animals and spending time with specific individuals and following them and learning their habits, their personalities, their traits, you know, what makes them them. So I think that that's really cool, and also the fact that we're able to watch animals in different locations makes a huge difference too with their sort of behavior and kind of what goes on. So, I mean, you can study wildlife anywhere in the world, but it's hard to do what we do. You know, it's obviously everybody wants to do our jobs because it's a very cool job. So yeah, very, very lucky to be able to do that. A normal safari guide doesn't spend hours and hours like we spend hours watching these different types of animals. So it's very specialized. You know, we always talk about when you go on safari, if it's your first time, you want to see everything. You want to see every animal. You want to see all the cool, probably you don't want to see all the cool plants, but if you're a good safari guide, you would definitely incorporate that into your game drive, at least letting somebody taste something or smell something. You know, there's so much to a safari. You can really only start doing that with guests once they've been 5 or 6 times, you know, and they've really appreciated, they've seen everything they've wanted to see, and now they're quite happy to go and sit with a pride of lions for the entire day waiting for them to get up and do something, you know. But that doesn't happen early on when people start going on safaris. You know, it has to become a bit of a passion. Everything is just new and shiny and you want to see it all. So yeah, so it's awesome to be able to sit for long periods of time, especially in the Mara, like during the middle of the day. If you go and, you know, you're not broadcasting, you can go into areas, you can explore it, you haven't been, go and find cool animals, sit with them for hours and hours on end. It's amazing. It's a whole lot of fun. I don't know why I turned left, Craig. Why didn't you stop me? Just seemed right. Ha 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 ha. Fahrenheit, I get where you're coming from, saying that you'd get too attached being a safari guide to all the animals. But you definitely form a huge connection spending time with them, but you also learn that they're still wild animals. So I never used to be able to watch kills, anything sad that would happen to any animal, ever. When I was probably right through high school as well. I didn't like it. I couldn't watch a documentary where a lion was going to catch an impala. It made my stomach turn. And I know that it's for a lot of you who watch the show. And then once I became a safari guide, and I've been going on safari for pretty much my entire life, and even still being exposed to it at a young age, I couldn't understand it. I think that's probably what it was. I was very uneducated with what was actually going on. And it was only until I really started learning and studied to be a safari guide, trained to be a safari guide, that I understood obviously the importance of, well, I suppose, how the whole ecosystem works and how one animal can't survive without the other, and that it does mean that a lion has to hunt. Every time I watch a hunt, normally when it's quick, if like the lions catch an impala, there's very little sound. That animal dies almost instantaneously. But to still watch lions kill a buffalo or wild dogs pull on prey that's maybe a bit big for them, even just watch him kill impala, it's pretty hectic. It's still, you know, I'm still taken back by things like that, but I understand it. It doesn't gross me out anymore. So that comes with experience and exposure. And, you know, yes, it would be devastating to watch a hyena come through and maybe kill a leopard cub, or a lion break a hyena's back. It's horrific. It's not nice, especially if you've been watching that character forever and ever. But again, it's wild animals, hey? It's just how it goes. We can't keep interfering. We as humans are so bad with that. We just want to fix everything, and I think we especially with wildlife, we're not fixing a lot of things. We ruin a lot of things. So I think sometimes, like what we do, I think it's good to just take a step back, try not to interfere, you know, try our best not to interfere. Obviously, it's virtually impossible, but we do the best we can. That's why we have to be so sensitive when animals are hunting, so that both party, the prey and the predator, have an equal chance. Prey has an opportunity to get away and detect the predator, and the predator has a fair chance of being able to catch the prey without our presence ruining, you know, the whole thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough, but it's nice to be out here. I would die if I was sitting in an office right now. I think I would lose my mind. I'd really, really, really lose my mind. I don't know how you guys do it. I commend all the city folk and officers sitting in traffic every single day. I could not do it. The only thing that I could do is go to the gym and watch people gym, because people at gyms do funny things, and I think I'm going to have to do that when I go back home. Right, let's go to Steve, who also will agree with me. He doesn't enjoy spending time in an office. Let's go see what he's up to now.
I don't think I could ever imagine seeing Taylor at a desk job. I think I'd go mad myself. I mean, I was in the office for a year and a half for my master's, 2 years, but it was just for the writing stages. The rest of the time I was doing things with earthworms and plants, so very dirty hands in the office, which is the way I like it. Dirty nails and dirty toes, barefoot. I didn't always have such fancy boots. Well, actually, I got these while I was doing my master's, specifically for gardening, specifically for compost. They're not as flashy as David Gitu's zebra-striped gumboots, though, but they are lined with sheep's wool, and they are beautiful, nice and comfortable. But what interesting conversations this morning. And Taylor talking about conservation and about also how you evolve as a guide. And I think I was quite blessed when I did my level 1. I did my level 1 in an area where there were hardly any animals to see. You saw tracks and you saw dung and you all know I like to talk about my poo, but there were plants and birds and tracks and there were no animals really. And so I learned how to guide that way. So when I started working in the Lowveld, for me, just finding things was awesome. I didn't need to race around finding animals. Just tracks and ants and insects were good enough. And if the animals popped into the frame, well, we'd go see them. Obviously, special interests, people all come from around the world to see certain animals, and you need to try and accommodate that. But, you know, we get you all here with the marketing strategy of the Big Five. Big Five, we get you here, and once you're here, well, then we show you all the little things on the floor and all the things that make the Big Five capable of living in this area. Well, if you hadn't noticed, we've left the hyena den because, well, there was absolutely nothing going on there that we couldn't do another segment of an ear. It just wasn't really going to work. So we've been driving around seeing if we can find any fresh tracks, and so far all we found is a few kudu tracks and some porcupine. Hello, Bill, you viewer, welcome to the show. I'm glad that you're interacting with us. Lovely to have you on board. You want to know if I've seen any big snakes lately? Well, Jamie yesterday was putting this roof on, and as she was pulling the covers down, a snake fell into the car. Just wiping the monitor. There we go, doing what we do. A spotted bush snake, I think it was, or variegated bush snake, fell into the car. Not a venomous snake. But about a month ago, there was a black mamba in the road that... who had a black mamba? So Sydney apparently had a black mamba yesterday. And it's a relatively large snake. They are very... the snake that everyone fears with their life. But all the mambas I've ever seen just slither away. So we mustn't be scared of these snakes. Which we do have snakes around. It's been a while since I've seen a python. Well, those are the biggest we get here. They can get up to 5.5, 6 meters. Yeah, watch out for your children when those things are around. Only joking, but not really. Rock pythons are phenomenally big snakes and very powerful. And I'm trying to remember where the last time I saw one. Sure, it's been ages since I've seen a python. I saw an enormous python track about a week ago. It was about this thick as it slithered. Pythons invariably will go straight like this, but when they need to move, they can do the serpentine motion. And then I had a very small baby puff adder just the other day when I was out with Rusty, one of our new guides, for doing some training. And a very small puff adder, about this big. I actually got a photo of it. Maybe I can find that for you and show you. They're as venomous as the adults, though. You must bear in mind, folks, when snakes are born or hatched or however it is that they are brought to this world, they are extremely if they are a venomous species. So don't think, oh, it's only a baby. It can bite you. There was a guy who actually died quite a few years ago now at one of the training colleges outside of the Kruger. It was that caught a baby black mamba. It's a very sad story, everybody. Very sad story, but the reason I'm going to repeat it is because we need to pay attention to these things. People who get bitten by snakes are those who handle snakes. If you leave them alone, there's a very little chance of it biting you. But I think they'd caught this small black mamba, and this guy wanted to relocate it into a bigger container. And while he was doing it, it touched him on the finger, but he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything to anybody. And then they were in a lecture, 45 minutes later, he just dropped. Just stopped. Because a black mamba's bite is going to stop your heart and your breathing. It's not going to kill you that way. The problem is you don't get oxygen in. So someone has to breathe for you. Someone has to open up your chest cavity, your throat to get the oxygen in. And that's what invariably 4 or 5 minutes kills you. So, be very careful with snakes, everybody. Don't just play with snakes. Don't touch them if you don't need to. I won't touch a snake if I don't have to. There's many, many ways to catch a snake. Very, very easy ways to remove them from lodgings and from buildings if you need to. And then let it go. Don't look at what I've got. Have a look. Wow. Do you like snakes, Jandre?
Love them.
Jandre loves snakes. Do you handle them?
In pillowcases.
In a pillowcase works quite well. But conduit piping about this thick, about that long, one end closed off. If you find a snake in a room, invariably we get puff adders or Mozambique and spitting cobras in our rooms sometimes. The best way to get rid of them is to put the tube facing the snake's head, because it just wants to get away. And you just tap a stick, it goes straight into the tube. Shade, it's escape, it's a hole. Snakes love going into little cavities, little hideaways, and you do that, pick it up, off you go. You can't climb out of there. Boomslang could probably climb out of there, but black mambas, spitting cobras, puff adders, you could put all of them in those containers and take them away somewhere safely. I used to have those dotted around in the Kruger Park years ago, little tubes, and I'd just wait for someone to scream. You hear someone scream, you know exactly what's going on. So I have handled a few snakes in my life, not out of willingness, just out of necessity. But exactly the strategy I'm telling you now is how I handle snakes, with the black tubing and allow them to go straight in and out. I have used tongs before for a few puff adders, proper tongs. You grab them behind the head and you can grab the tail, you can lift it up, and a few Mozambique and spitting cobras, but I don't enjoy it. But it is a good thing for everybody to go and invest in a snake handling course. It just shows you how to, if you ever need to. But don't ever do it if you've never done some form of course. Just rather leave the snake be. It's not going to cause you too much harm unless you try to grab it. I mean, if you look at statistics around the world, people who get bitten by snakes are those who handle them, or in rural Africa, it's women and children, normally on the arms or the ankles, collecting wood. Because it's a very sort of tribal culture. People have to collect wood, and it's normally the women and children doing so. And so invariably the snakes, especially puff adders, hiding in the bark, bite them. But they're not really out to get us. But anyway, enough about my nonsense there. Let's go back up to Pat, who's having the most wonderful morning with his cheetah.
Well, as you can see, we have great visuals of this cheetah right now, and that is, of course, complete sarcasm. You can see kind of just a little white of its tail there, but other than that, it has gone completely flat. Now, in the downtime between the last segment, I have asked around about the cheetah conservation projects going on here in the Mara, so I could elaborate on it a little bit more. So the cheetah fund that I mentioned is just kind of a general cheetah fund. It's not actually specifically for here in the Mara, but what we do have in the Mara is a couple of good ecological projects that are happening, looking at population monitoring and things along those lines. So there are two that I read, the Masa Maru Cheetah Project and one simply named the Cheetah Project. They're taking a lot of different recordings and samples. I believe it's going to span about 2 years. So it's good to see those conservation efforts being made. Now, Steve was talking to you all about the first guiding experience, or their first guiding experiences, Steve and Taylor, and that got me thinking. And my first guiding experience was actually with all of you guys right here in the Masai Mara with the Olololo Pride. I remember it was a very fine morning, and we just stumbled across them. Ollie and I were out on a training drive, and we had a cameraman with us because we were just going to practice. Little did we know, James Hendry decided to spring on us, that seeing as we found lions, that we would be going live. So there's my first guiding experience. And I still remember one of my opening lines was feeling iron like a lion in Zion. So there comes in my song lyrics again, woven into my drive. I don't know why they keep popping up. And I believe Steve was also talking to you all about snakes. Sorry, while this cheetah is flat, I may as well just keep talking on. So, also talking about snakes, I have a really interesting story about something that happened here the other day. I'm sure a few of you have at least seen the video where a giant rock python swallowed a hyena whole. That was a very insane video to watch. Now, that actually happened not too far from here at all. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the Salt Lick territory, and it was just a bit up from there that this actually happened. So wouldn't have that been something incredible to have seen live? But unfortunately, we didn't get it. So it looks like most of the gazelle have disappeared from this side of us. It seems to be just Topi feeding there. And I really doubt a solo female hyena is going to take down a Topi. One thing it would definitely be able to take down if it got its hands on it would be a little mongoose. And I believe that Stevovo has some down in South Africa.
I think a hyena would really struggle to catch a mongoose, but in a one-on-one battle, most certainly. But it's never one-on-one when it comes to mongooses. I still don't know what to call the plural. Here we've got a dwarf mongoose family, everyone, and, well, they are very, very, very interesting animals. And when it comes to snakes, they gang up on them. A little youngster there staying very close to Mum. Look right underneath the belly. How cute is that? Nice, warm place to be. Mum, it's wet out here. What are we doing? I love this little family. They're not far from Vuyatela Lodge, so it'd be a nice little family to try and spend a bit of time with. And see them all over the road in front of us, busy feeding, no doubt, on insects that have come out from the rain. But mongoose, all different mongoose species have got an amazing ability to kill snakes. I remember seeing a video of what I think was a yellow mongoose, and there was a snake in someone's garden, in a tree, almost like 2 meters in the air. I don't even know what it was. It might have been a boomslang. And this mongoose was watching it and launched itself 2 meters to catch the snake right behind the head. And then it enjoyed himself a meal. So mongoose species are all very, very well adapted to catching snakes. And, well, puff adders are eaten by them, cobras. Dan, you want to know why they have so much energy? Well, essentially, the way it works is the smaller an animal is, the higher the sort of nutrient requirement is. So a small animal like a mongoose and a squirrel needs to eat very high energy foods to maintain their body process, and it also means they cool down very quickly. So they need to have lots of energy. They eat high energy foods to keep themselves going, but then also they cool down very quickly, so they need to maintain that energy. So the smaller an animal is, the much more active it needs to be, and the larger an animal is, the least active it needs to be. If you think about rhinos, elephants, they're very lethargic and slow-moving. Gorillas as well, slow-moving, taking their time eating. They can't afford to eat, well, they can afford to eat bulk roughage and bulk sort of low-quality stuff, whereas small birds, they need to feed on very high-energy stuff in the form of seeds or insects, and, well, mongoose are the same. I remember being at a farm once in the Karoo, which is down in the south of South Africa, and this person had a domesticated dwarf, what was it, a dwarf mongoose? No, he had a surrogate, so a meerkat. And that meerkat would not leave me alone. It was the most annoying thing I've ever experienced in my life. It was digging into my shoe. I had to eventually stand on the table. I couldn't. I was pushing it away, but it wanted to get into my shoe, and there was no stopping it. And they got very long claws and a very busy nose, and, well, they were really trying to get into my shoe. But it's the first time I've ever been so annoyed by a small creature. But Linda, you want to know if I have anti-venom or if they're immune to snake venom. I'm not 100% sure if mongooses are. But they're definitely not afraid of snakes. They will definitely surround them and they'll attack it from either side. The snake obviously can only defend itself with its head, so it's very, very vulnerable. But honey badgers do. They have seemingly an anti-venom. They get bitten and it seems like they're able to just process the venom within themselves, and they're able to survive the meanest of bites. The last 2 pythons I think I've seen, actually I found them dead with their whole head missing. That was from a honey badger that caught them and killed them. So very hard to go by. But I'm not sure if mongooses have an anti-venom. I'm really not sure. But they're very quick and they come at a snake like this. So the snake's here and they come this side, come that side. The snake just can't do anything. Whether they get bitten or not and survive is hard to say. Surrogates or meerkats seem to have an ability to withstand scorpion stings. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're able to sort of deal with certain snake bites as well. But very small animals like this, venom will course through them very quickly. You can imagine the venom of a black mamba could kill the size of a rhino very quickly. So you can imagine what it would do to one of these little guys if they didn't have that immunity. So immunity is something obviously that's built up in a species over a very long time, and if they were capable of obviously fighting the snakes and surviving their bites, then they would breed and that immunity would move forward if it did work in the population. But I'm not sure, not 100% sure. I wonder if any of you out there are able to answer that for us. Does a dwarf mongoose have an anti-venom or an immunity to snake venom? Let us know. If you don't know, we can ask Taylor, see if she knows. I wonder. She did start the snake chat, didn't she? Or was that Pat? I can't remember now. Rob, want to know if mongooses are related to squirrels or ferrets? I think they are. I think they're in the same family, ferrets. I don't really know too much about ferrets, but ferrets would sort of be the American equivalent, I suppose, of a mongoose. Not really sure, but they do have a very similar sort of appearance to them, a very similar sort of way about things. But I'm not 100% sure. I don't really know anything about ferrets. John, what do you think? You seen a ferret before? They're a mammal, and they're definitely part of the carnivore family. Are they? Are they not? The dwarf mongoose is the smallest mammal carnivore we have here. Marcel, our new sort of tech guy, was giving me a whole lot of questions the other day, saying, but there's plenty of other carnivores in the world that are insects and birds. It's like, but Marcel, we're talking about mammals, yeah, mammals. Everyone loves mammals, and yes, there are many, many carnivores that are not mammals, of course. Many insects that are carnivorous. Snakes are carnivorous, but they don't fall under the order Carnivora, which I tried to explain to Marcel, but he's a very analytical guy. He needs to work things out properly, and my answers just weren't good enough for him. I didn't have enough technical knowledge in it for him to make sense. But anyway, Taylor doesn't seem to know if they are immune. Not sure really. Good question. Good question. It's nice to be stumped though. If any of you out there can answer that first, that would be great. Okay, so Faith, you might have to say that again for me, but Indigo Girl's saying that mongooses have some type of receptor that makes them immune to snake venom, which is very interesting. But I think there's a word there because Faith was really struggling to say it. I might have to check my Twitter to see what you say. Please tag me there, Indigo Girl, so I can see that word written down later when I check. Acetylcholine receptors. Very good. Well, that's something I didn't know. Something I didn't know, but we're always learning, aren't you? If we knew everything, well, we'd be lying to ourselves, wouldn't we? Definitely. But I love the fact that we can discuss these things and in real time you can come back with an answer for me, which is great. One of the things I love about the show, and what Taylor was talking about earlier about how, with practice or with experience you start to learn that spending time at a sighting is awesome. And when you have guests and they're first They want to see the big five, and they want to see it now. And that's what's great about the show, is I'm sure Taylor can agree. Like, Pat has been with that cheetah all morning. That's what I love about the show, is I can find something and spend the whole day there if I want to. Only hunger makes me move. What have you got there, Jandre? The rainbow is fading. But anyway, let's go and see if Taylor's on the other side of the rainbow and if she's able to find the pot of gold.
We were trying to get there yesterday, but we haven't even seen the rainbow. Is there a rainbow? Craig, do you see a rainbow? No, not yet. We're looking around. We don't have a rainbow, sadly. Oh well. But yes, Steve, I do agree with you. It is awesome how you can kind of be on drive and learn things new. Especially with all this new research that's coming out, the way the technology is changing. We're definitely going to be learning a whole lot of new things, which will be very cool. I like that. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with improving on our knowledge and or learning new things that people never knew about animals before. Sorry, I just need to watch where I go here. So we're just bumbling around now. I haven't seen any fresh signs of any cats, actually. Oh, impala are running ahead of us, though. They're running down towards the dam. We're going to go towards Vuyatela Dam now and have a scratch around there and see what birds we got. Hello, impala. Why are you running? You chasing one another? Oh, listen to them. Let me have a look here. And there's a great chainsaw sound. Can you hear that, Craig? I was going to let you listen to the impala making rutting sounds, but unfortunately I think the chainsaw or weed eater or something is going to trump that. They're doing a bit of maintenance in the lodge. So Paula, you know what, it's so hard to give a suggestion on how to, you know, I suppose support conservation or give back to conservation. I don't know. I don't know what the best way is. I suppose talking about things that people don't like to talk about, educating them, you know, that's probably the best way. I'm not a huge fan of donating massive amounts of money, just because I think people are really horrible and there's so much corruption that I don't know if all the money that gets donated necessarily goes to the right places. There's definitely organizations out there that, you know, want to help and do the best that they can. But, I mean, you know what people can be like. Unfortunately, that's a very young impala lamb, Craig. You see that? There we go. That's just coming out now. Look how small it is still. Don't you think that's small? The others all seem much taller than that one. Maybe you were born a little bit late. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I'm so sorry, Paula. It's a really, really difficult thing to kind of do. I mean, if you want to donate money, yes, there's definitely people that will be very thankful for that. Just make sure you do your research as to who you're donating to, you know, and maybe they've got some projects that they've already helped funded, and you can go and see all the work that they've kind of done. I think that's important to do that. Don't be naive. There are lots of fraudulent people out there all over the interweb that will quite happily take your money and not use it for conservation. So that's my advice to people is just make sure you do your homework. Yeah, and then I think education. I think even, you know, taking kids to zoos and things like that, I think it's good. It might ignite a passion for them to want to get involved in conservation in their sort of area. Things like that are quite good. Bill, I would love to bring back dinosaurs. If I could bring back any extinct animal, it could be any dinosaur, but there are a few movies that have told us that that's not a good idea to do so. But that would be my thing that I would do. I'd pull a Jurassic Park, even though you know it'll be a disaster. But anyways, what else? I don't know. No, I'd bring back dinosaurs. That's it. That's the animal that I would bring back. People might think I'm crazy, but I mean, it's not the first time. Craig, let's go down to the dam. Let's see what's happening there. I would love to just see the sheer size of like a Stegosaurus or a Brontosaurus, and that sort of real ancient look about them with all their sort of armor plating. Even a Triceratops, that would be so epic. Man, that would be so cool. Predator, well, the Predator dinosaurs. probably not a good idea. So maybe we can leave the T-Rexes, and even though I want a Velociraptor really badly, we'll maybe leave them out of it. But yeah, that would be quite cool. Or imagine seeing Megalodon, the shark. I would have a heart attack even on land if I saw it. That would be the end of me. I'd just freeze and pass out. I'd be terrified. Who knows? Maybe it's still lurking in the deep waters of the ocean. Ha 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 ha. Now you'll all be terrified next time you go and swim. Okay, what do we got up here? Let's see. Just for the record though, I don't want to bring Megalodon back. That's fine, that can just stay extinct. Oh, we've got Egyptian geese sitting on a branch, sitting on a branch, sitting on a branch. So let me actually stop. And you can see we've still got our rain roof on, that wonderful bar. We can still hear the chainsaw. Who have we got there? Foam nest frogs and 2 Egyptian geese. Is that all? Is that all that this dam has for us today? Huh. I thought we would have seen a bit more. Apparently not. Maybe the geese don't want to get their feet wet and that's why they've perched themselves up top. Or maybe not. Okay. That's all, Craig. I think I maybe should have driven us a little bit quicker and we could have gone back to the wildebeest. They seem to be providing us with all sorts of entertainment this morning. I might even go back and just watch them for a little bit. But unfortunately, we're a bit too far away. We've still got a little bit of a drive to go to get there. But they're so entertaining. I wish we had double the amount of wildebeest, however, that are on quarantine at the moment. And you've had like 50 wildebeest running around. Not that I think there's even 25. There's probably only about 10. Whee! Okay, now we're going to go up here. Oh, someone had a little bit of a slippity slip. It was a bit wet. Okay, that's nice. We didn't slip too much. Anything interesting been happening on the dam cam recently, you know, since last night? Nobody saw any action? I don't think so. I didn't see any tracks. I keep hearing my voice when Faith talks to me on the radio, and today it sounds particularly high-pitched, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But anyways, let's go to Steve. Steve's voice is not as high-pitched as mine, and is quite gruff, because Steve is a man's man. Whatever that's.
Well, thanks, Taylor. We've decided to stop and find you some birds that are also feeding on the ground. Probably on something similar to what the mongooses are. You can see the hornbill on the right is like picking them up and flopping them in his mouth like peanuts. Sifting through whatever's there. There's lots and lots of termites out on mornings like this. And when it's damp, you often get termites moving out, building their colonies, building little tunnels. And there's a Cape glossy starling. No, sorry. I think it's a greater blue-eared starling at the back there. Can't really see what they're feeding on. Could even be ants. Very, very small organisms on the floor that are almost invisible to the eye, but seemingly all around what seems to be some impala dung and elephant dung on the road. So organic material deposited by animals from the vegetation over time slowly gets decomposed back in and feeds a number of bird species, and these are a couple of the many that will sift through dung on the ground, looking for the insects that obviously are associated with them. So it could be anything from ants, termites, and dung beetle larvae if it's a larger pile. But a time of plenty for the birds, and all of them are probably having finished a successful breeding season. And when you get late rains like this, it can sometimes encourage the fast breeders to breed again. It's all about food resource that determines whether you can have another child, another set of babies. You can see it's some form of dung there that it's sifting through. Thoroughly enjoying it. Kim, you love the call of the hornbill. I was going to try to do it there for you, but I don't think my mouth is moist enough.
Come on.
Jean-Jay wants me to do it, but I can't. I think I look ridiculous. It sounds like an engine running, a little diesel engine starting up, the hornbills. Oh, there's a baby kudu just over here. The baby kudu. This would be a great way to end the show. Where are you going, little one? You're all on your own. There it goes, running, running. Mum has left me behind. Now, cheetah and leopard would definitely try and catch that little thing. Shame. Let me just move up here for you so we can get a final shot of only ears. The baby kudu is all ears. Sorry, Jean-Andre, how's that? Sorry, this pole is making life very difficult. There it is. Kudu are known to sort of lie up. Their babies will hide away in the thickets while mum goes to drink, goes somewhere to feed, and something might have startled her. But she'll be okay, everybody. But we do thoroughly enjoy having you out with us this morning. It has been a wet one. It has been miserable from a weather point of view, but a fantastic drive nonetheless. Thanks, Pat, Taylor, FC, and all of you out there in the wide world who've spent your time with us this morning with all your questions and comments. We hope you've enjoyed yourselves as much as we have. We're looking forward to seeing you again this afternoon. We're going to go home for a coffee. You have a beautiful, beautiful day further, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.